Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Mayor and City Council of the City of College Park. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom. It is 7:30 p.m. We have a quorum with council members Clay, Karn, and Allen. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order. Our first item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chaplain Alexander will be doing our invocation this evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I pray that all is well. May we pray, please. Father, we come tonight in your name. We come once again into this place to conduct the business of this city. I come tonight praying for our city, College Park, our state, and our nation. I come tonight praying, Father, for wisdom and our unity, that it may be upon this governing body and all its employees and upon the citizens. I pray tonight, Father, for our first responders, the law enforcement, and our firefighters, and all the city personnel that they protect and work in this city, and they may return home daily, each day, to their family. I also pause tonight, Father, to pray for Rockdale County and also Deputy Jenkins' family as they lay him to rest. I ask for strength for his family during this time. I pray, Father, for our city leaders and the staff as they go through tonight's agenda, that you will bestow wisdom, compassion, and understanding upon each one of them. In the mighty name of Jesus, we do pray. Amen.
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 We've got additions, deletions, amendments, and changes to the agenda. Madam City Manager, I believe we have a couple.
Mayor and Council, additions and deletions. There's one deletion. We'd like to delete item 7B. Got a little more work to do on it.
What is item 7B, Mayor?
7B is consideration of an action on a request to approve an IGA with Fulton County for the November 8th special election.
Additions, I'd like to then make 7B, the T-SPLOS resolution approval.
I'm sorry, Ms. Tice, you say 7, so you would just replace it? So the T-SPLOS would be
Yes.
7B? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And 7C would be T-SPLOS, the approval to have the mayor enter into the intergovernmental agreement with BIDA associated with T-SPLOS, with the bond approval. And then everything else will slip down, so the next item will be D. Then the public hearing on the fiscal budget would be E. F would be a discussion of the top 10 delinquencies. G would be top 10 delinquent property taxpayers. H would then be the consideration of action to request approval of financing terms or lease. I would be another lease purchase. J would be presentation of the new logo for the golf course. K would be the city authorizing vital legal fees. L would be approval of a 15-passenger van. M would be the consideration of approval to replace vehicles for the fire department. It is a request for purchase of 25 new police vehicles, no shouting police. O becomes approval for the backhoe. P is the dump truck. Q is for a John Deere piece of equipment. R becomes the purchase of a CCTV and network vehicle. Coming down, and then there are 4 items, 4 new additions to new business. So 10A would be approval to allow the city manager to replace the broker of record for our liability insurance. 10B would be approval for the city manager to identify a recruiter for the economic development director, the city engineer, and the chief building inspector. 10C would be adding a Ward 4 representative, Mr. Darrell Roberts, to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And 10-4 is adding Mr. Charles German to the zoning and appeals. And that would be all of the changes for this, additions and deletions for this evening.
Just a question. That's a lot of stuff. Do you have that written down somewhere? Can someone just make us a copy of it? Is that possible?
A copy of what I have in my hand?
The changes, yeah. The additions, I guess.
Sure.
All right, that'd be great.
Sure, we can get that done.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Is there a motion?
Motion?
Thank you, Councilman Carn. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor of the amendments?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 3A is approval of the regular session minutes from May 2nd. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 3B is approval of the workshop session minutes from May 2nd. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
I second
Thank
with
you,
a
Council.
comment.
Okay. All right, Councilman Allen. Seconded with comment. Go ahead.
On packet page 48, and I don't know if you have gotten that, line 290 and 291, it said here, I said, if more money starts coming in, better than we thought, I think is what I said, or something to that effect.
All right. Any other changes?
That's all.
Hearing none. With that update, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Items 3C is approval of the budget meeting minutes from April 7th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous as well. We do not have any proclamations, resolutions, plaques, or announcements this evening. We will move on to citizen remarks. Ms. Ames, can you let everybody know what guidelines we are going by?
Sure. Okay, so right now, we are going by the guidelines that you can sign in before 7. If you do not sign in, you can speak for 3 minutes. Once the mayor acknowledges you, you cannot donate those 3 minutes to any other speaker. When the public comment portion is closed, there will be no more public comments taken at that time, after that time.
Thank you, ma'am.
The first speaker is Booker Washington, 3120 Godby Road. Oh, okay. Next I have Sabrina Willis, who's donating her time to Josie Whitewood, 3067 Clover, I believe it says Clover Hill Street.
Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is Josie Whitehead. I'm 17. I've grown up in this community of College Park my whole life, and I'm still being raised in this community. I just wanted to speak on some recent experiences I've had that I've been blessed with recently, and I just wanted to share them with you guys. So, thank you for your time. Recently, I met Miss Sabrina Willis about 3 weeks ago. I was working out at the local track down the street, actually. I've been working out there about 2 months, just getting in a regimen, enjoying what the city provides. And we sparked up a conversation. I learned a bit about her, how she's the head of the Favor House, what she does for the community. And one of my lifelong dreams is to help my community as well. Like I said, I was born and raised here, so I was a child blessed with good experiences. But I was also always aware of my friends who weren't, You're either introduced to good experiences or you're not. And Miss Sabrina, I'm 17 years old, and I'm still being blessed with these good experiences. Most of my friends, they've grown up in communities or areas where you don't get the blessing to meet good role models all the time, and it leads to things children shouldn't have to be introduced to at such a young age, And I just want to highlight Miss Sabrina and what she's doing in our community because it's still impacting me, and I'm almost out of my adolescent years. Like I said, a couple weeks ago I met her, we sparked up a conversation, and one thing led to another, and she took me to a national convention. She did not have to do that, and it just really impacted me a lot seeing somebody I had just met a couple weeks ago, see me as a child and see what I have to offer and see my passion to help my community and introducing me to a setting where I was able to make global connections and meet people and be introduced to mindsets and perspective that I would have never been introduced to within my own community. Needless to say, I just wanted to give a shout out to the Favor House because the work she's doing is beautiful, and I just wanted to be the representation to show you that she is impacting the youth. I am the youth, and I have been impacted, and she's just pushing other people, especially the youth, to impact other people. So thank you for your time. This was lovely and a little nerve-wracking, but yes. Have a good day.
You did a great job. Thank you. Ms. Ames,
I have no others that signed in.
does anyone else wish to speak for 3 minutes? If you could state your name and your address.
My name is Valerie Lee, and good evening, Mayor Broom and Councilman. I am a product of College Park, and I'm so excited to share that I brought my businesses to College Park. And yes, I said businesses, plural, on Main Street. I have 4 businesses on College Park. They are the Wellness Spot, which some of you are members, and if you are not, I will talk to you afterwards. It is a fitness and day spa. We specialize in manicures, pedicures, facials, massages, Reiki, and we also provide special events on Sunday. We also have we just celebrated 1 year on Main Street, so I'm very excited about that. After a year of renovation, going through COVID, we survived, so I'm very happy about that here. I also own an IT consulting firm, which we have had for 20 years, but we brought to College Park 2019. We service and support colleges and universities. We've serviced, and some of our clients include Emory University, Stanford, Harvard, University of Houston, you name it. So we have been in business for 20 years supporting colleges and universities in the area of IT. I also have a foundation, a 501c3 BVB Foundation that is headquartered here in College Park, where we support minority, female, women-owned entrepreneurs. And I also have Building Bridges Holding Company in College Park that is a real estate company supporting all of the industries, all of the properties that we have here. So I just wanted to say that I am a product of College Park, even though I've lived in many areas, California, North Carolina, and Indiana. I am so glad that I'm able to give back to this community. I went to Woodward Academy. My children go to Woodward Academy, and I'm so grateful that we're able to give back to this community. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak for 3 minutes?
Tracy Wyatt, College Park. Just
Could
want
you
to
state your
say
address,
at the
please?
last,
I'm sorry. Could you state your address?
1730 Virginia Avenue, or whatever. But anyway, I think at the last council meeting, my voice got a little louder than I thought it should have. So I just want to go and let this body know that I respect this body.
I'm sorry, Tracy, I can't
And-
quite
Just wanted to get up and say at the last council meeting, I think something came out a lot louder than I intended it to. So I just want to come up and let this body know that I respect the positions that you hold on this council. That's all.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak for 3 minutes?
I have 2 email comments.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Let me, going once, going twice in the room. All right, Ms. Ames.
Okay. This comment is from Tom Coleman, and it reads, Dear Mayor and Council, we wish to speak out against House Bill 1417 as it now stands. As we recall, the request for this legislation was crafted so as to help lower-income senior homeowners from getting priced out of continued residence in their long-term homes due to increased property valuations. House Bill 1417 goes too far beyond this laudable goal, financial impinging on all property owners under 65 years of age. We respectfully suggest that until we can determine how to get a bill which was specifically worded to the desires of mayor and council on the ballot, unchanged by the legislative process, it does little good to fine-tune a product that will be unacceptably changed. Regards and thank you for your work, Eileen Murphy and Tom Coleman. Next comment is from Sherry Godfrey regarding Airbnbs and rooming houses. Council, my name is Sherry Godfrey, and I reside at 1966 Lyle Avenue in College Park. I'm writing this email to express my interest in addressing the growing number of Airbnbs and rooming houses in College Park. It is my understanding that Peachtree City is taking initiative to put some requirements and guidelines in place that, in my opinion, aim to protect the value of the home ownership while also not banning these revenues. It's also my understanding that College Park takes a hard line that essentially bans Airbnbs and such, but in reality is not effective and is very difficult to enforce. Hence the growing number of rooming houses throughout the community. Like Peachtree City, I think College Park should require the homeowner to have a vested interest in the property, be present, and not just rent bedrooms of single-family homes to capitalize on profit. I can't recall all of the safeguards of Peachtree City's plan, but requiring the homeowner to have skin in the game is a God thing. It protects tenants and homeowners from transients who have no interest in preserving their community and property improvements. If the owners are present, there is less risk for deterioration of neighborhoods and community development that benefits all residents. As a new resident to the area, I'm very interested in preserving all the great qualities that attracted us to the neighborhood and would like to see it flourish. This requires us as a community to respond differently than we have in the past when we witness the fact that our current practices are no longer effective and enforceable. Best regards, Sherry. Those are my comments.
Thank you, ma'am. We will move on to 6A. This is just a request to set a public hearing to consider a conditional use permit at 0 Sullivan Road in the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District. We will have, if the council sees fit, actually have the hearing at our next meeting. This is just a request to set that hearing. Is there a motion?
I have a question before we,
I've got a couple of comments too.
it was mentioned, and I got an answer to my question. It was corrected. On the cover letter, it said a traffic study was completed. And that's not correct. There was not a traffic study completed. Ms. Krizik said that that was an error. And another comment is that the wording of the proposal, if you look at packet page 89, at the very bottom, there's a statement, the site being C-shaped prohibits development of a warehouse or light industrial facility and only lends itself to a vehicular storage type of use. Well, if you actually look at the more detail, you'll find that that C-shaped property is really a combination of properties which are individually capable of having something different on it. And I'm not convinced that because you put properties together in the shape that is not suitable to put one building on, that means that there isn't a higher and best use for the property. The biggest concern I have is the fact that it is for a truck parking, a drop-off pickup truck parking. And if you look at packet page 5, and the reason I'm bringing this up, I know I could bring these up at the actual public hearing, but there are 242 places that that implies to me that if you bring a tractor trailer in and drop it off from a long haul, and then you expect it to be picked up again for a short haul, that if you retain it on the property for one day, that means you would have 484 arrivals and departures per day. And it decreases if the trailer obviously sits on the property longer. That's the reason why there should be a traffic study on Roosevelt Road. And apparently, at some point, it was thought there was going to be a traffic study, but there wasn't one. So I would like to know whether we can have, for the public hearing, the results of a traffic study in order to approve this, or why we aren't requiring the results of a traffic study. We have already talked about traffic problems on Roosevelt Road, Route 29, and that's just in an area where another truck facility has put in that as I recall, Councilman Gay was very opposed to, and we tried to make some adjustments to that, but we still have that facility there. So this is putting another one down in that area that's going to generate more traffic. So those are my comments, and my request is that we have the results of a traffic study or know why we don't think one is necessary before we approve this thing.
Well, you touched on two of my issues there. First thing, I'd heard about this thing, I don't know, about a month ago, month and a half ago maybe. Obviously, the last thing on earth we need is a tractor trailer outfit over in my district. This particular piece of property is nearby one of our largest communities, Embarcadero Club Apartments. And, you just say to yourself, what other neighborhoods would want this or who would approach us with this type of stuff? And I guess we get approached with this type of stuff for several reasons. I understand the Planning Commission, was it Planning Commission or BZA?
Planning Commission.
KC, was it? Planning Commission. And one of my residents from Embarcadero is here, Mr. Kelly's here. He's my planning commissioner, actually. And it goes without saying, this is something that the community does not want. I don't have any interest in anything like this coming into our neighborhood. I don't like College Park being, looked at by some developers as just a place to pretty much dump off anything you want to set up out here. I remember there was an outfit there in that area that wanted to do it was light industrial. They wanted to do some type of an asphalt production outfit. And I just said to myself, you've got to be kidding me. What neighbors want those kind of fumes going on day in and day out in the neighborhood? And some of the stuff I see that comes up here, I just say, I can't believe you even bring that stuff in here. To ask about this type of stuff. But, it's a free country, and I understand this is just to look at the public hearing, but this is not something that my community wants. But if we're setting the hearing, do we have to set a hearing, or do we have an option on that, or what are our options?
We do have to set a public hearing, and I'm sure everybody on council appreciates that since this is going to be a public hearing, we're going to reserve judgment until we hear all of the evidence at this public hearing where they have an opportunity to be heard, and we're going to make our decision based on the record presented at that public hearing, and so that none of our comments this evening would be deemed to be prejudging the matter before we even had the public hearing, which might be a violation of certain due process rights.
So to that end, is there a motion to set a public hearing?
I'm fine with setting the public hearing.
Second.
And my comments were just reflective of that planning commission meeting.
So Councilman Carn, you've made a motion. Councilman Clay, you've seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 7A is consideration of an action on a request from ATL to hold an outdoor family Juneteenth event from June 19th, on June 19th, 2021, from 1 to 4:30 at 3749 College Street. Any questions from Ms. Ames on this?
I have a question.
Go right ahead, Councilman.
Are they
Clay.
here?
Yes, he's here, Mr. Days. Come
Okay.
on up, please.
I think it's great. It's becoming an annual event, and I think it's a great block party to have. So I have no, nothing against it in principle. My question is, though, it says here under background that police is requested but not required. And if, first off, question to the attorney or to the police department, do we require police for an event like this? And then secondly, if police are required, then they should be paid for as part of the event. So, so if you want police, that's great, but I'm just arguing that you need to pay the guys.
Correct. We have every intention on hiring the police. We hire them for several of our events anytime we feel like the crowd is, where it's necessary. So I definitely would hire the police for this.
Okay, well, it's halfway in my ward, so I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second with discussion.
Okay, Councilman Carn?
I was trying to get familiar, so are you, you got your business here in the
Yes,
city?
right
or-
here off College Street.
I was trying to figure out who is this outfit? So what is the building? Where are you at? I'm
So-
trying to get my bearings together.
So there's, right on College Street, there's 3 hair salons that's in the plaza together, and we're right to the left of the hair salons. It's called Aye Tea Elle. It's a restaurant, upscale.
Okay.
Right across
This
from-
time
Okay.
last year, we did the event. We weren't open.
So
but
this
we
is the
still-
rest, this is Bill and Linda Marsh's.
Yes.
It's right across from the
Bill
bar.
Marsh.
It's where they
Okay.
used to have a luggage place.
Okay,
in
okay,
that- in that-
okay, now I got it.
Yes, sir.
So, is it a parade? Is it what is it?
So last year, we just from one red light to the other, we blocked the street. We had the police. They had
Okay, block
barricades.
party. Okay.
Yeah, it's a block party. We had musicians outside. This year, we're going to do inflatables because COVID is down. Last year, we had to cancel that.
Right, last
So-
year was,
Yeah, we
And it
did
was
a
we had to
raining
be a
last
little
year,
more
wasn't it?
reserved.
Yeah,
didn't
the
we?
rain got
It was
us
raining.
last
It was raining.
So hopefully this year we can do it the way we intended, but it is becoming an annual thing, and this time we can invite kids and family. We do intend on having some inflatables and more kid-friendly and food trucks.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. One thing I want you to do is to make sure, and do we have his contact, who you're dealing with, who are you dealing with the city?
In regards to,
Putting this thing together?
I've been speaking with Shavela, I've been
Okay.
speaking with.
Well, you have his information, right?
Yes, he's also been working with economic development.
All right, I want to take a look at some of your flyers and stuff, because I want to
Okay.
put some of that in our apartment community.
Absolutely.
And, obviously Juneteenth is, I pushed, it was my bill to sponsor Juneteenth as a county-wide paid holiday in Fulton County. Of course, we had to reduce one holiday to get that holiday.
Okay.
So, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, this sounds great. But again, a lot of times, there's a significant portion of our residents that for one reason or another don't get the information about the festivals and the things going on. So we want to make sure that, I want to get with you to make sure that everybody knows about it.
Absolutely, that'd be awesome.
All right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I second it.
Any further discussion?
I just have one quick comment. I just want to say thank you for coming to College Park. Not many people know where you are, and hopefully this will help.
Thank you.
Some. All the other storefronts and everything don't have a problem with it.
It's been growing. We've been, we learning a lot. This is our first restaurant, so this was a great area to come and learn. And it's just been every day a learning experience in the restaurant world. But it's been growing. I love people coming and having a good time and not having to be far from home and having to drive 30 minutes back. So.
But the other stores don't have a problem with blocking off the street at all.
No, and we team up with the 3 salons next to us. We put everybody's logo on the flyer. So we try to do it as a team over there. We've been in text messages, and I told them I was coming here today.
Great,
Yeah,
thanks.
it's a block party.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Block party.
What kind of food, by the way? I didn't even know you had a restaurant.
Oh,
over there.
yes. We have everything from sea bass to lamb lollipops to steak, salmon. It's a upscale vibe. We do live jazz every Wednesday. More of a mature vibe that we feel like it was needed over here.
We are
I've
certainly
got
happy
one
to
question
have you.
for you while you're here. How do you deal with some of the double parking that goes on there?
Great
Councilman,
question.
we have a big old agenda.
Okay.
And I know that we're veering off course on the double parking. And I want to make sure that we have the opportunity, because we're going all the way through Q.
Okay.
So,
Well-
is it possible for you to have a conversation with him offline about that?
Or I can bring it up during my report.
Sure. Whatever works.
Okay,
I'm flexible.
all right,
You gonna be here
Yes,
till the
I'll be-
end? Or-
I'll be here.
Okay,
All right.
it's kind of.
all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Any in opposition? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. All right, so item 7B is approval of the resolution authorizing the T-Splosh bonds, correct?
Yes,
All right. And who's going to be leading the conversation on this one?
I will, Madam.
All right.
Madam Mayor and Council, this is a resolution associated with the bond issue that was approved by BIDA at their last meeting, and this is a part of the resolution that this council also approved. So the bond, we have identified who the issuer will be, and this is a resolution verifying what BIDA has already approved and what you approved as well.
And that's because we had a joint meeting, but we didn't end up with a quorum.
Yes.
So we needed to approve
I
it
move
tonight.
for
Now move to approve.
Correct.
Second.
Hold on one second. I'd heard Councilman Allen move to approve it. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
I have discussion. I don't know when I should have jumped in. When she was talking, you were talking, you jumped in and said discussion. I just have a comment.
What is your vote, sir?
Approved.
All right, so that is a unanimous approval on that. Go right ahead.
I just want to say publicly what the T-Splosh is. Can you just, it is for $6 million, the bond?
Actually, it's for
So what do we have?
$9
$9 million.
Well, it's for 10 paying back the debt as well.
And
But yes.
I just want the public to know that this $9 million, approximately 6 of it is for a road at 6 West, and approximately $3 million is to pave streets throughout the city. For those of you who are listening on the public, that's $9 million for infrastructure. So when you hear my comments to talk about what may just be a difference of $40,000, I want the public to know we're talking $9 million versus $40,000.
Thank you.
Okay, and one other thing I will say, also city manager, when we discussed that, doing this, we said that we wanted to see these things happen simultaneously. We're borrowing these funds, advancing the, 6 years of T-Splosh for this. But we also wanted to see those sidewalks and street and road improvements happen simultaneously. I've seen some of that start, so I want to make sure that we're still committing to that. Obviously, we got contractors doing
Yes,
road
sir.
work, but I want to make sure that we're doing things as advertised, where the road projects that we're advancing are happening now for our residents. So I just want to, just for the record, make sure that we're cognizant of that and remembering that that was a condition of me going along with this thing. So,
Absolutely.
all right.
Item 7C is approval of an intergovernmental agreement in regard to the T-SPLOST bond issue. Questions for Ms. Tice on this one? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Councilman Gay, how do you vote?
I was just thinking, Cohen walked out.
Yes, how do you vote?
Approve.
Okay, so that is unanimous for those present, those being council members Clay, Allen, and Gay. Item 7D is consideration of an action on a request for approval to amend the resolution governing rules of order and procedures for citizen remarks. We've already done this in practice already tonight.
Comment.
Okay,
I had asked when this was being discussed that we add a provision that I don't see in this. I had asked that the elected officials, visiting elected officials, and previous officials have the same right to talk. I don't see that in this provision. Could that be added?
have the same, I'm sorry, the same right to talk? I thought you said you wanted unlimited.
No, the elected officials from other jurisdictions, when they visit us, they get to talk.
Oh,
That's in any public comment. And I also wanted any previous elected official that sat on this body, when they come to visit us, say Councilman Clay gonna retire. So if he come down next year to talk, we wanna give him the opportunity to talk without more than 3 minutes.
I think giving anyone unlimited time is a,
No, just elected officials. If you were a prior elected official, which is not many of us, just a handful of us.
I think giving anyone unlimited time is probably,
I thought it was a 3 minutes
I thought
for
it was 3
everybody.
minutes.
I thought it
for
was
everyone.
I thought
For
we had
elected
thought
officials as well?
3 minutes.
everybody.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I mean, if we have an elected official like a state rep or someone who comes, we can certainly add them to the agenda to give them an opportunity to speak
Right.
outside of the public comment. I don't think that's,
Okay, so so that wouldn't be part of this?
that wouldn't be part of this.
That wouldn't, no.
But I think that there's.
No, we give them the
rec-
courtesy of speaking first, usually.
Right,
So
yeah.
can we get a courtesy to previous elected officials that sat on this body, that same privilege?
Not for unlimited time.
I don't think so,
No.
not for an unlimited time.
Is that a vote or a comment?
Well, if you'd like to take it to a vote.
I would.
All right, just go ahead and make the motion.
Motion that elected officials that have sat and served on this body are allowed to speak for the 3 minutes, but they have an option to talk outside of the 3 minutes.
I wouldn't have a problem with it. I would second it with a caveat. And yeah, that's done in some of the other municipalities, yeah. I would say, we want to try to be as even-handed as we can, obviously, but yeah, if they get the 3 minutes, and if they do go a bit over, if there's a consensus that we want to hear the rest of it, or hear a little bit more, then I'd be fine with that. But I wouldn't say unlimited.
But not be automatic, Joe, is that what you're saying?
Well, I think if we need to hear more, then somebody's going to say, well, we'll hear the rest of it, and do it that way. That way it's not unlimited.
I thought we voted for 3
I
minutes.
thought we 3 minutes for everybody.
It was
but go-
3 minutes for
but-
everybody.
Yes.
Okay.
So the motion is not to change that. The mayor just said that if an elected official were to come, they have an option to talk outside of that public comment. I said, my motion is that we give elected officials that have served on this body that same right.
If they would like to present that, we could put that on the agenda. I think that's fine. If an elected official would like to say something.
We're talking about, I think we're talking about two different groups.
Yeah.
If we're talking about current elected officials who are coming to the city to make presentations, or, our state reps or senators or whomever, I think that's one thing. I think former elected officials are citizens like anyone else. but
Well,
I mean,
I guess yes and no. I mean, I guess, I don't know, maybe because I've been both, I guess. It's kind of a strange situation, I guess. I remember several times up here when I would come by City Hall or something, and I remember once or twice Jack was here, and he was no longer mayor, and he came into the lobby, and everybody was glad to see him, this, that, and the other, and he went on back to see somebody, city clerk or somebody, and I could tell the receptionist kind of was, she was glad to see him. I guess he knew who he was, but at the same time, it's kind of a city attorney. You get where I'm coming at, I guess, more or less. It's kind of one of those things. I want to give council member, mayor, former mayor, whoever, the respect to come up here and say what they want to say out of the respect of the post that they held. Mayor Broom, if you're mayor for 6 terms, that would be amazing. But let's say you're no longer mayor and you want to come up here and speak. I'm going to let you speak as long as you want to speak. Absolutely.
I'm good with 3 minutes.
Well, let's say you might need 3.5.
But the motion is not. The
I would
motion
give you
is
the
not-
3.5.
The motion is not
As
how
long as,
long they talk. The motion is to give the former elected official the same privilege to speak outside of the public comment.
Well, why don't we give the option to, if someone wants to hear the rest of it, then we hear it. How about
Okay, so
that?
wait, we're talking about something that's outside of public comment. So this policy deals with public comment.
So that motion is not before us. The motion that I just made before us is that an elected official have the right to talk outside of public comment, so they choose. We do that all the time. I'm simply saying that former elected officials have that same right.
Okay, so this is a new motion.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
so the motion is for former elected officials to have the opportunity to speak outside of the citizen remarks.
As well as elected officials. I'm just trying to not make a distinction between a former elected official, Ambrose, and a current elected official.
But there is a distinction.
Maybe it's not, because in a lot of organizations, particularly the ones I'm in, the bosslers or former presidents or past trustees, they have the privilege to speak. Because 1, we want to hear from them. So that's number 1. And 2, they earn that right. But it's a vote. We don't have to stay all night to debate it. It's
Agreed.
A vote. Vote it up or down.
Let's vote it up or down.
I mean, I'm not against it. I mean, let's say, for instance, Senator Vincent Fort is our former state senator here. He was one of the 2. If he comes down and he's got something he wants to talk about, and he goes a little over 3 minutes, yeah, I want to hear the rest of it, sure. And he was a former elected official, but he helped make College Park what it is. I mean, like the DMO, for instance, we wouldn't have that without him, for instance. Not that you necessarily justify that and say we owe him that right to speak, but, you sacrifice a lot with public service, y'all. I can tell you that right now. So anybody that's done this job at length, you want to give that respect. And me, I've always said with any resident, I would never cut off a resident, whether they're coming up here bashing me. I want to hear it. They got a right to say it. It comes with the job. So I'm not for cutting anyone off if they come up here. If they want to finish their statement, I'm going to say I want to hear the rest of it. Elected, non-elected, resident, everybody. But that's just me.
All right, so.
Let me just mention that we talked about 3 minutes for everybody.
Everybody.
And we can keep that 3 minutes if you want to have elected officials to be able to speak outside of comment. If they were to come in, walk in late, whatever, if they were to get up and say something, I think there's no problem with them getting up and saying something.
Can we start this right now? We'd like to just have a free-for-all.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, please, if you're going to, no, we can't do that. If you, any more outbursts, I'll ask you to leave. Okay. All right, so, all those in favor of Councilman Gay's proposal?
Can you read the proposal, because his
I
comment,
can't, I'm not.
your comment didn't sound like you're listen,
Councilman Gay, can you talk in the mic, please?
the motion is not that the elected official can speak more than 3 minutes. That's not the motion. The motion is that elected officials, as well as previous elected officials that served on this body, can speak outside of public comment in the event that they were to come late or something.
That's fine.
That's all.
I'm fine with
Speak
that.
outside for how long?
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
So everybody gets 3 minutes.
Everybody gets 3 minutes, but you have elected officials, and you have, I see former elected officials coming here that may want to talk, but they should have that right. I don't think they can just get up and talk, but within that space, because when I was at Fulton County, the county chairman came to tap on my shoulder and says, Councilman, please come down and talk, and you can talk as long as you want. So that's what made me even know about this. But I'm not even asking to go past 3 minutes. I just want our formal,
If, Councilman Gay, I guess I'm confused because if it's still 3 minutes, then why do they have to be designated as anything other? I mean, why do they need special designation in the policy?
You're right, and it's basically, if they have more to say, we don't want to stop them from talking. That's just a call that, ma'am, there are only about 4 or 5 people still living that were served on this body. So we're not really creating a scenario that can't be managed. I don't even know if it's 4. Is it 4? I don't think it's 4.
I think the question is 3 minutes across the board or not?
Well, the question is a motion. We're not here to debate. It's a motion.
So your motion is, let's state one more time. What is your motion?
The motion is that elected officials and those officials who have previously served on this council have the option to talk outside of the public comment or past 3 minutes until they are through talking.
I would second it with this caveat that we put it to bed. You know, if an elected official or former elected, let's say Ambrose retires, he comes up here one day, he's got something he wants to talk about. We give him the mic. If he goes a little beyond 3 minutes, I think if someone wants to hear the rest of it, then we put that caveat in.
The challenge with this is that we are not being consistent. And policies, by nature, kind of need to have some level of consistency. And feeling like we want to hear what someone has to say at one point, but we may not want to hear what someone else has to say, creates a level of uncertainty for those who are speaking. And I think it seeks to sort of unlevel the playing field. If any one of us decides to come up and we just want to speak for 30 minutes because we're a former official and we're upset about something, there's no mechanism to stop that if we put that in here. I think 3 minutes across the board for anyone wishing to speak, whether they are a former elected official or not. I mean, if we have an elected official coming in here to give us an update on what's going on a different level, I think that's someone who would not necessarily be within the public comment.
The concern I have is that under Robert Rules of Order, we have a motion. We've had discussion. Now we're breaking our own rules. We're going rebuttal, discussion, rebuttal, discussion, rebuttal, discussion. It was not intended to be a debate. People, we have a lot to do tonight. It was simply that, and Councilmember Cohen seconded with a caveat that the former elected official or the elected official can continue to talk until they're pretty much made their point.
I'll motion with it, with or without the caveat, whichever one to pass, I'm fine with. Let's move, let's call for it. Either way, I'm good with it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
No, I think it's got to be 3 minutes.
I'm opposed as well. So we are to the consideration of an action on a request for approval to amend the resolution governing the rules of order and procedures for citizen remarks. Is there a motion?
Yes, move to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
I'll second it, but
Thank you,
back
Councilman Carr.
to the, I've got a little more discussion. I I think everybody was okay with elected officials coming up and having afforded the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes, sounds like. All right, so this one is public comments. When we're done with this one, if we modify that motion without the additional time, would everybody be okay with that in terms of the elected officials thing?
I don't think anyone has an issue. I mean, this is just for citizen remarks, so I don't think that anyone has an issue with elected officials who are coming to give a report to this body.
Well, it's not a report. It's elected
Or
official may have.
We're just trying
whatever.
to give people who served up here an opportunity to have that right to talk. And since we're not talking about, I think you're kind of like making it more than what it is. I mean, we vote for so much stuff that's way more serious than this. I think you were putting way too much thought in it. You know, it just was a simple gesture of respect that we will offer you or myself or anyone else if they wanted to come down here and talk to us. That's all it was.
Understood. And so all those in favor of the approval to amend the resolution governing rules of order and procedures for citizen remarks?
As it's stated.
As it's stated.
I moved, I vote yes.
Okay.
Aye, I vote yes.
Yes, that's fine.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 7E is public hearing to receive comments on the proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. And so this is the first of two public hearings scheduled to receive public comments. The second will be held on June 6th, 2022. Ms. Floyd-Bradley, did you have anything to add to this, or I'll just go ahead and declare the public hearing open?
Just go ahead.
All right.
We're good.
Public hearing's open. Anyone who wishes to speak on the proposed 22-23 budget is free to come down and share their thoughts.
Good evening.
Good evening. Could you state your name and your address?
It's John Duke, 1638 Hardin Avenue, College Park, 30337. So, since this is a public hearing, not citizens' comments, how long do I have?
You have, it is not limited
time.
in a public hearing, so go right ahead.
I'm
As
unlimited?
long as you want.
Wow. I'm gonna stand here all night then.
Don't get carried away, John.
No, I would rather actually not even speak. I would just like to ask a question, if that's possible. Ambrose, you ask a lot of questions about things, which is good. You dig into stuff deep, and you ask a lot of questions. So I wanted to ask you a question. If I
Oh,
mind,
that's scary.
If I don't mind. And that is, why do you want to increase the millage rate on our property taxes?
Because, well, first off, why I think we may want to do that is because we have drawn down our reserves so far that I am uncomfortable with our ability to maneuver if we get into some sort of a bad situation, like another COVID, for example, that would reduce the hotel motel tax or what have you. And right now, with interest rates lower, but they're going up fast, we have had to take out loans. We've taken out loans to help us do that, but I'm not sure whether the revenue from the hotel, motel, and so forth is going to be coming back to build up our reserve again. And we used to have a huge reserve, John.
Yeah, what is it
I
now?
don't know, 6 or 7 times, let's say, don't hang me on the number, that we have right now.
So what is it right now?
Our reserve right now, where is Althea? There's Althea. We've got about, what,
It was 8, somewhere around there.
3 or 4 months of operating is.
What's the amount?
Here's Ms. Floyd-Bradley with the information.
The general fund reserve is about $21 million, but about 12 million of that is interfund loans. So basically about
if
8
you
million, interfund loans where we let other funds borrow money. So that's what it's made
So
of.
about half of that, maybe around 10, 11 million?
9 is basically general
And
fund
how
reserves.
long will that allow us to operate?
About 3 months.
About 3 months. So that's my concern. We used to be
Yeah.
able to operate about a year, I think it was, at least.
Right.
And, Mr.
So you
Duke,
really, what's that?
Could, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, you really only have 9 million in true cash on reserves. You can, I don't
For all
think,
practical purposes.
for all practical purposes, you really can't count what people owe each other, robbing Peter to pay Paul.
You got it.
Right, so, but I know what the reserves used to be. I've been here long enough to
Yeah.
follow it, and I've tracked it for many years, and I've studied the budget, and, I've spoken up here a lot about it, and I'm sure people are probably tired of hearing me talk. That's why I wanted to ask questions to see what you see that I don't see.
Yeah, well, that's what I see, John, and my position, first off, we said we'd hold off the decision to raise the millage rate. At least my position was we'd hold off the decision until we have to actually make that decision in, say, the August timeframe or something,
Right.
somewhere in that area. Secondly, if we did raise the millage rate, what I would suggest is that we do it for a year or two until we're confident that our revenue is back and that we have built up our reserve to some point, and then drop it back. The danger, of course, always is when you raise taxes, you get comfortable with the income. I'll be the first to say that, and you say, well, maybe I don't want to cut that back. But my intent would be if we did raise them, that would be for a year or two and we cut it back, unless
All right.
something bad happens.
Well, for the public record and everything, the revenue coming in from city property taxes is going up every year, where you're collecting more revenue, whether or not you raise millage rate or not.
You bet, because of
Right.
Your property,
When I moved here and bought my home in 1999, I didn't even get a tax bill from the city of College Park. It's crazy. That's why I moved here, because it was an affordable place to live. A couple years later, I got a tax bill for $35. Last year, I paid $960. And I didn't mind paying it. It's a payment well worth it, because it runs the general budget. It pays for our police and fire department, and we need more police officers, and I don't have a problem with it. But all I'm saying is that that's over a 300% increase on my property taxes. It gets to a point where it's like, hey, come on. But the other thing is, you're talking about building up reserves. There were some bad decisions made here, I think, and the reason why those reserves have gotten knocked down. But I really don't want to go there, because I was water over the dam, spilt milk, can't cry over spilt milk, whatever. I don't want to beat anybody up. I want to move on forward. But that's why, and it's like, but the point of it is, it's not fair to me and us that, to raise millage rate when you're already collecting more revenue, and wasn't our fault that the reserves went down.
Well, we may find out. We may find out by August timeframe. Right now, we don't have the Fulton County Tax Digest, unless it's come in that I
Right.
don't know about. So that's another reason to wait to do it. If we have some property values that have gone up 50%, I think some have even gone up 100%.
Yeah.
So if that makes its way through to the tax digest, and we're able to handle all of our expenses, then there's no reason to raise the millage rate. And so I don't know. But if you've ever learned anything from me, I don't tell people what they want to hear. I tell people what I think is the case. And I've been talking about raising taxes. I think I'm the only one up here probably has been, because I want to prepare the public for that possibility, because I think it's a real possibility.
Right.
And I'm hoping we won't have to do it. And as far as I'm concerned, hey, I pay taxes too. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not anxious to raise the tax rate if we don't have to. But I think that I don't feel comfortable with the financial position we're in right now. And the money's gonna have to come from somewhere, or we're going to be short services. We just took out loans for police cars. You're gonna hear a whole string of things tonight that we're buying based on loans that we're taking out. So, we're indebting ourselves into the future. Anyhow, I expect people are tired of hearing me talk, but I'm just hearing my dialogue.
I asked you the question, yeah.
John, I just wanted to, go ahead.
Sorry, I have one correction to make. That $21 million reserve total was at the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1st, 2021. It's 2020. As of June 30th, 2021, it dropped down to 16 million.
So now we're at half of that, is that?
Real cash, 9 million still.
What did you?
And John, I'll just say, I know you've been here for a while. I've been here for a minute as well. It's a tough decision, but looking at this budget process that we went through, to service things at the level we want to service them at, over the years, this city, our residents have enjoyed probably the lowest millage rate in the region at 12.61, whatever it is now.
12.67,
Everybody else is higher and has been higher for many, many years. One of the reasons is that our hospitality covered the spread more or less. Because we're a little bit lower in terms of residential properties in general, we're probably less than 30% residential property taxes, which gives us a disadvantage in terms of when something like COVID hit. We were lower because we had that cushion where we had a lot of industry and hospitality to cover a lot of those expenses. COVID has hit, obviously. We've got to figure out a way to bring that fund reserve back up, because I can tell you, I for one slept a whole lot better at night knowing that fund reserve was there in that amount in the event something happened. And building that back up, again, we've paid less than most cities around us in Fulton County in general because we had the hospitality cushion there. We lost it for a year and a half, 2 years. It's going to build back up. If we do a raise, if it's for a year, 18 months, hospitality will come back, and I would see my way to bringing that right back down because we've had low rates. So, it's a give and take thing, and everybody's not going to be happy with whatever decisions we make up here. But at the end of the day, but I get what you're saying, and I don't want to pay extra property taxes. Believe me, I've seen my property taxes go up and up and up and up. So yeah, but the things we want to do and the services we want to provide. This budget is a good budget. Staff worked very hard on it, and particularly Ms. Tyus coming in, as well as Mercedes. But I wasn't quite satisfied in terms of, I knew there wasn't enough funding for the things we needed to do, and these were things that needed to be done. So it's a tough deal. So.
Well, from my understanding, the budget is balanced without raising the millage rate actually right now at this moment. But to your point about other cities' millage rates, I haven't done an in-depth look into it, but I do know Fayetteville's millage rate is 5.6, which is less than half hours, and they have not near the hospitality revenue we have with hotel, motel tax, and car rental tax. All that hotel, motel, and car rental tax is supposed to be paying for the bond debt, the revenue bonds, which that's the deal that we were told and what was struck, and when the bonds were taken out. So, in other words, property taxes are not supposed to go toward those decisions for those revenue bonds. Most of it is the GICC complex. part of it's the public safety building too, which is important. I could see using general funds to help pay for the public safety building because that's a building that's capital improvements for city services. But anyway, I just want to say that most cities, when they raise the millage rate, they have a reason though, specific reason, and they make the case to the people in the city. And I don't feel like this body's done that job of making that case. And I'm going to give you some examples of, if you came to me and you said, John, this is what we're going to do for the money with millage rate, I'd probably be on board with you. You want to start an insulation program so that we can insulate and save energy in all of our buildings and houses in the city? Some sort of setup program. Let's see, you want to start a school system, K through 6 school system that we run. You want to build a technical college so that you can train, our poverty rate's 30%, and so you train people how to put solar panels on roofs. You want to use the millage rate increase to, say, maybe electrify the fleet in our city. There's just a handful thrown out there, but the case has to be made, in my opinion, on.
Look, John, I think you make an excellent point. And I think the one thing we haven't talked about probably at this point is, first off, this is not a hearing to discuss the millage rate. This budget assumes, right now, the budget assumes the existing millage rate. The millage rate will not go up unless we have another review at the time we set the millage rate, which is late in the year. It's typically, August, September timeframe, as I recall, that we start getting involved at that. At that time, we know, to your point earlier, at that time, we know what the county tax digest is. With some of the increases in home prices that we have around here, you're right, we're going to be raising a lot more money. It may not be necessary to do that. So that's one point. The other point is that there's one other thing we haven't talked about. This was an issue that I brought up during the discussion of the budget. And that is the fact that we pulled a bunch of capital expenses up into this year. We don't normally buy 25 police cars in 1 year, for example. We put out $1.8 million to buy improved technology for our police department, Axon technology, tasers, body cameras, whole things that are were sorely needed. But what we didn't do, we didn't have a complete 5-year capital plan that looks at the next 5 years. And we had it in some areas, but when we got into it, we agreed, and city manager agreed, that in, I think it was like a couple or 3 months, that you would come forward, right, with
I think I said a little longer than that, but yes, we're committed to a 5-year capital plan.
Yeah, you will come up with a 5-year capital plan. Now, so why is that a big issue with me? Well, because we just are taking out loans so we can pay for this equipment, right? So that is encumbering us over the next several years, which is a drain on our incoming revenue. So if we come up with a capital plan that says, well, each of the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to want another fire truck and another fire truck and another fire truck. That makes a big difference if we say, no, we don't need any more fire trucks in the next 5 years. We got our fire truck, we bought it early, which was smart, because interest rates are lower right now. Inflation is lower right now. If we're going to squirrel away things, if we're going to try to save our money for the future, dealing with double-digit inflation, we need to do some of this stuff now. That's a smart decision. It's a smart decision for you to buy your TV now rather than next year.
Excuse me, Mayor, I have a comment.
Councilman Clay, are you finished?
Are you finished?
Almost. So when we get the 5-year capital plan, that's another look that we have to take and see if that makes sense. If it turns out that it's reasonable and matches with the indebtedness that we've incurred to pull capital forward, then we're in great shape. And I'm done.
How are you gonna increase, how are you gonna
Hold
improve
on
the
one second.
capital plan?
Mr. Duke, hold on one
Okay.
moment. Councilman Gay?
Yes, you said earlier, you talked a little bit about consistency. I've been on council for 8 years. This is the first time I've ever heard a public comment whether elected officials are engaging in the public comment. So, to my point about elected officials talking, and he said himself, gee whiz, I can talk all night. We need some decorum because I don't know if it's fair to the people who are in the audience. I don't know where this is going, but just a back and forth dialogue between Clay and Doc, and we need some protocol.
Thank you, sir.
I mean, this is a
Mr. Duke, do you have any other comments?
No.
The floor is yours. The public hearings, we don't
Right.
have limits on them.
Yeah,
But we have limits on, we don't talk back to our public comments. We've never done that. You could
I'm
talk
sorry.
to tomorrow,
Public hearing.
but I don't remember us
I'm
having
done.
to
Okay.
talk back.
Okay, all right.
I'm,
All right.
To our
I'm done,
public
Councilman.
comment.
I'm done, Councilman Gay.
If that-
I'm done.
Thank you.
But I think that this kind of dialogue is healthy.
I support you. You know, you and I, we filed the lawsuit against the $10 million for the arena. But I'm just saying, consistency, we need to practice it.
For the record, I didn't file a lawsuit,
Yeah,
but
you did.
no, it's an objection.
Okay, all right. We're running afoul, we're running afoul of the budget. Does anyone else wish to speak for this public hearing on the budget?
Ginger Blackstone, 1928 Walker Avenue. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when you run out of money and you can't pay your bills, you have to borrow, right?
Not necessarily.
What would we do if we couldn't pay our bills?
Well, as opposed to borrow, there's always an option of raising your rates so you can pay the freight to do what it is you need to do. If you need 25 police cars, you can do option A, you can borrow some
he's
money
answering, that's
and
okay.
leverage yourself up, or B, you can raise the fees or whatever have you. So
But you
there's-
get
there's
it
some options.
somewhere
Yeah.
from the city and the community. You gotta pay your bills.
Exactly.
I know what it's like to have a zero balance in a checking account. I don't want to see our city struggle to make ends meet. We've got us on a good route. We've got some of the best city services, and we all have bad attitudes sometimes, but you know, we've got good officers, we've got good firefighters, even, you know, the people we don't even see. I don't want us to be tiptoeing or going across being a bird on a wire and not know what's going to happen and what we're going to have to cut because we don't have enough money. I support what y'all have done. It ain't easy. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Trust me, I'm gonna be the shortest one. I just want to comment on something I commented on earlier. I've been a big proponent of City Fest, and I know Councilman Clay, you had some good conversation about it not just being College Park citizens. But I can tell you that, you know, anytime we can do something for kids, whether they're in College Park or not, is a good thing. Kids are breaking in cars. My cars ain't just their kids that live in College Park. So I would hope that this council will reconsider a tradition of City Fest or any other festival in this city to give something back to the citizens that pay property taxes. And I don't want to get into it, but I probably pay more property tax than 80% of the people that live in this city.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to comment during this public hearing? Seeing none, I'll declare it closed. Moving forward, we'll go to discussion and update on top 10 delinquent utility customer accounts and delinquent property taxpayers. Questions for Ms. Fleur Bradley on this issue? On either one of these issues?
I'm good, Mayor.
Okay, anyone? All right, hearing none, we'll move forward. 7H, consideration of an action on a request for approval on the financing terms of the lease to purchase one Pierce Enforcer Ascendant fire truck through Truist Bank in the amount of $1,549,000.
Motion to
Mayor.
approve.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. I'm sorry. Thank you, Councilman Gay, for the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was unanimous. Item 7I, consideration of an action on a request for approval to lease to purchase one Pierce Enforcer Ascendant fire truck from 10-8 Fire Equipment at a cost of
I move for approval.
Second.
$1,549,000. Councilman Allen, you move to approve?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was unanimous. Item 7J, presentation of new logo options and approval for the historic College Park Golf Course.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I had some questions
Hold on,
about this
hold
one.
on 1 second. Let's let Ms. Miller come on down. Councilman Gay, you made a motion to approve. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Ms. Miller, I believe there's some questions. Councilman Carn, go right ahead.
A couple of things. Well, I guess the first obvious question, what would this cost, number one? And I understand, before I got back up here, that we did I guess we paid for a look at changing the city logo at some point, I was told. And I'd like to know what that cost. So that's my first question.
I can't give you the price for changing the city logo. For the logo that we have for the golf course, this was done through through the convention center where we have our marketing team. Our marketing team came up with the concepts.
Okay, so this cost us $0. Is that what you're
Cost
telling
us
me?
very little. We're trying to rebrand the city. I mean, not the city, but rebrand the golf course so that it goes along with the convention center and the arena.
And these match the convention center and arena?
Well, they don't all match,
Oh,
but
okay.
it gives it a new up-to-date look.
All right. So there's no cost to it? So we basically pick the one that we want?
We can pick the one we want. Again, we work with the company to come up with concepts. It's already been paid with our marketing funds, so it didn't cost us anything extra. We just want the mayor and council to give us their choice as to which one they favor.
So you want to pick? I don't know. I like the first one.
I like number one.
I like number one.
I like the one with the trees is nice. I could live with number one, though.
Sounds like we got a winner.
Ms. Miller, do you have a
I don't like the
recommendation?
third one. Now, the third one is the actual third one on here, right? Okay. Okay, I got it, okay.
My
yeah.
recommendation is number one.
Yeah, that one I don't like.
The number one is the half moon with the bridge underneath it.
That is Jason and
Yeah.
his recommendation.
Okay, so
I don't know what it is
recommendation from
about it,
staff
but I like
is number one.
Yes.
Councilman Gay, you made a motion to approve, but,
I'm gonna modify the motion to
Okay.
approve number one.
okay.
Second, number one.
Okay, so Councilman Gay has made a motion to approve with logo number one. Is there a second?
Second, number one.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Item 7K is city council authorization to pay by the legal fees for the month of March 2022 in the amount of $10,442. I think we are seeing this because it is $442 over.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. I believe that is unanimous.
Madam
There
Mayor,
are no, yes, ma'am?
before you go on, I'd like to call you all's attention to the fact that L through R are more equipment, it's the same equipment request. So unless there was a challenge with L through R, I'd like to propose that we take them collectively. It's all the equipment.
So you want like a consent agenda
Yes.
for that?
Okay.
And I'll move to make it a consent agenda, and I'll move to approve.
Well,
Hold on 1 second. Hold on, wait.
go
Let's
ahead.
move for the consent agenda first. Councilman Clay's made that motion. Is there a second?
I had a second with a caveat.
Okay.
I want to pull out the 25 police vehicles and the, I think that was all I wanted to pull that out. That's a pretty significant amount of money.
On the consent agenda, you want to take out?
Take 7N as in Nancy out. So it would be 7L.
7N? No, not 7N.
And
no.
it's,
Police vehicles?
7M.
police-
7M, yeah.
it's N now.
Oh, it's in now?
And
Okay. That's
on
good.
the updated.
Okay. Well, the 25
No,
police
M
vehicles.
is,
Right.
according to what I have, M is the,
N is in Nancy.
oh, N is in Nancy.
So we
Yes.
would be looking at a consent agenda for, Councilman Clay, if you are amenable to that.
Everything but N.
Amendment, it would be 7L, 7M as in Mary,
Yes.
7O, 7P, 7Q, and 7R.
Yes, I'm amenable. That's my motion.
Okay?
All right.
And your second still
second.
stands, Councilman Carn?
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, gentlemen, that is unanimous. So is there a motion to approve items? Give me one moment, let me get it clear, make sure we got the record. Motion to approve items 7L, 7M as in Mary, 7O, 7P, 7Q, and 7R.
Everything but in, yes.
It-
I'll make that a motion.
Thank you, Councilman Allen, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's unanimous. Moving on to item 7N, consideration of and action on a request for approval to purchase 25 new police vehicles for the patrol division.
Yeah, I wanted to take that out and take a look at it. Obviously, that's a good amount of money. One of the, I'd ask about, I didn't know what was the procedure on this, and I don't know if you all had, changed some stuff over the years per se, but it's a pretty good chunk of money, almost $1.2 million. Do we normally put an RFP out on this type of thing? Purchase?
Are we talking about the vehicles or the entire package?
I guess, all or both, I guess.
So the vehicles are bidded through State of Georgia contract. That's what we're using with Wade Ford to purchase these vehicles. Motorola is also a state entity. Dana Safety is also state. So we just use state contracts as a means because they've already vetted all this and done the solicitation process.
Okay, and I ask that because, when we're talking about that much money, one of the things I would have liked to have seen is some type of an RFP process. There are some minority business enterprises that do have state contracts. There was a particular female business enterprise that was interested in bidding on this, that had a state contract, and I just would like us to, I said to myself, when you have items that hit this, the seven-figure marks, it's harder to find disadvantaged businesses that are even having the opportunity to compete. But when you do have some, and there's several in Metro Atlanta that have a state contract, I would have liked us to put it out to give someone else a chance to possibly get these vehicles purchased for us, Does that make sense?
Makes sense. I don't know of too many minority dealerships in the metro area.
Well, there are a few, and I would have just liked to have seen, in particularly the female business enterprises. I think it's important, and not just because our female chief, who's doing a great job, but the majority of the residents in this city are women. Let's just be real. And I'm just, again, Wade Ford, they do a great job, but they're going to be all right. I want to see some of the smaller outfits get a chance. You talk about the big shots, and the reason they're big shots is because they get all the opportunities. And the problem is the little shots never get a chance to step up to the plate and take a big swing at this stuff. Maybe they get it, maybe they don't. But I wanted, and I remember we did talk about that. I would have liked to have seen an RFP go out on this, and I don't want to always assume necessarily that, oh, no one else can do this, but there are outfits that can. And when we're talking about this kind of money,
Is
I
Wade
just,
Ford a minority on
I'm
business?
sorry.
I'm sorry.
When we talk about this type of money, I would just like us to be aware of, what we're trying to do. And I know we literally just met like a couple of weeks ago. At some point, I want us to sit down and look at city manager in terms of if we can look at setting some type of a policy for minimum minority participation on contracts, a minimum goal for all contracts, so that disadvantaged businesses, female business enterprises in particularly, will have a shot at all of this stuff. A lot of it, they may not be capacity and folks that can do it, but you want to give it a try. And a lot of the times you never know in terms of giving smaller outfits an opportunity to do business with this city. I just don't want to miss that. And I hated to see that with that kind of money when I know there were minority dealerships with state contracts. So I don't want us to pass up those kind of opportunities. We talk about Juneteenth, we talk about doing things in a new way, and we have our female mayor here who's doing a great job. And I just, let's represent what we talk about. Let's represent commensurate with our population. And let's just keep that in mind and not just assume that, oh, well, I don't think anybody else can do this, but, the same old folks that we go to. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with Wade Ford. But I'd like to see other businesses get opportunity. I'm sure Mr. Wade's kids are doing great and in college and everything else. But I want to make sure other businesses and enterprises that are trying to do something get a chance at this stuff. And I'm just speaking overall. I'm not just, speaking to you, but let's just be cognizant in terms of making sure everybody can participate, and at least we give them a chance to. So I'd like to see us, city manager, maybe at some point put something on a workshop about a goal for minority participation across the board when we purchase stuff. I want us to make sure that we're aware of that and looking at that and trying to do the best that we can for that. So
Well, I hate to
Wade
cut
Ford
you.
is a minority-owned business.
Wade Ford is a minority dealership in the
it
state of
is.
Georgia with 3 state contracts, and they're the only one that can do the police per certain vehicles. And I do have a representative here from the.
We were trying to tell you that.
all right, well, come on up here. I'm glad. I was not aware of that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Roger Moore. I'm the government fleet manager for Wade Ford. And it was stated Mr. Steve Ewing is the owner of Wade Ford. Wade Ford's been in business since 1933. We've kept the name through 3 different ownerships. Mr. Ewing has owned the dealership for like 18 or 19 years now. Is African American. He's 100% owner of that dealership. As was mentioned, we are the state contract holder currently, and since 15 for the police pursuit vehicles for Ford with the state of Georgia. We also hold all the chassis contracts and all of the transit van contracts for the state of Georgia. For the last 2 years or 3 years now, we've been the #1 volume government sales Ford dealership for Ford Motor Company in the United States with over 6,000 units a year. Previous to that, 8 years, we were the #2 dealership. So I've been doing government sales in 2 different states with 3 different dealerships since 1994. And like I said, the biggest reason this is going to us at this point is that the orders for the police vehicles shut off back in March. And we were fortunate enough to be able to order about 800 units that most dealerships do not have the credit backing or others to yes, we are a very large dealership, and that is an advantage, no question about that. But we use multiple vendors for upfitting and try to stay with the police department, what their recommendations are, the people that have been doing their business, so that the equipment is consistent. And like I said, that's part of yes, that is an advantage of being a large dealership, being a high volume dealership, but we did have the vehicles in the order system. And even though there has not been a purchase order issued for these vehicles yet, there are 25 vehicles in our order system that are configured and marked for College Park.
Well, I'm certainly glad to hear that. I was not aware of that, so that's good news. And that's the type of stuff I want us to make an effort to do. So I'm glad to hear that. I still do want us to look at on the workshop to make sure that we look at overall a goal for minority participation, but that's good news. That, I was not aware of that, so I'm happy to hear that. And we're gonna get them in a decent amount of time.
Should have those by midsummer.
All right, sounds good to me.
And just one other caveat, one of my things now is BC before COVID in our industry will never exist again. Where you spend weeks and months with preparation, and at this point in time, is if a dealership has vehicles, you need to lock them down immediately. And we don't like that system either, but like I say, we're in a situation where government sales is getting fewer and fewer vehicles available from the manufacturer, so we're running into just a matter of a few days instead of several months of order banks being open, so we're having to order a lot of vehicles in a very short period of time. Like I said, the system that we operated on for the previous many years is changed drastically in the last 24 months, and we're struggling to keep up with it as well, and trying to work with purchasing, finance, fleet, council, and all across the state, because things are having to be done a little bit differently than we've had to do in the past.
That's good news, because we thought January, February possibly for this thing. So that is really good news.
We're expecting the van order bank to be open about 3 days, and also with Super Duties come in the fall, the order bank for the entire model year for 23 will be open for about 3 days.
Okay, last thing. I was looking for the vehicle list. I know we talked about, is it the Chargers and Durangos? Is that still what we got a different mix?
It's gonna be the Ford SUV, small SUV. That, not the hybrid model, Pursuit utility that you see riding around in really Fayetteville.
The Explorers, or
Yeah.
which ones?
Explorer.
So are we getting no cruisers, or are we getting all Explorers? Or?
Ford does not make sedans, which include police pursuit vehicle in sedan.
So all of the 25 vehicles are going to be the SUVs?
Yes.
All of them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is there a motion? I'm sorry.
I just, and don't get me wrong, I mean, if that's, you guys know what we need or whatever have you, but I always said to myself, well, I didn't know how that's what works fine with when you have perpetrators and the whole nine, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I'm still thinking in the old school of, either the Dodge Chargers or the Crown Vics, and when I think about a police cruiser, but, so, the trucks work. All right.
Discussion, question.
Wait, hold on. Did you have a motion? I'm sorry.
No,
I thought I heard you make a motion, Councilman Gay.
No, ma'am.
Okay,
Mayor,
all right.
It's a discussion.
I'll make the motion.
My question is, a couple of things that may bring some clarity in the future with the state contracts. There's nowhere in here to have indicated that Wave Ford was or was not a minority vendor, but we put that category in things that we bid out. I make a recommendation that somewhere in the document, because I'm happy to know that as well. Second thing is Wave Ford providing all the other services? Because $300,000 of it is not cars. So is Wave Ford doing those?
The vehicles that were approved are coming from Wave Ford.
Right, but the other, that's $300,000 outside of the cars. All I'm asking is, does Wave Ford do that, or is that state purchasing as well?
Dana Safety, who's been supplying the upfitting for the vehicles, will do that job. Motorola, which is state of Georgia contract, will complete the communication portion.
So the answer to the question is, are they state? You're saying yes, they are?
Yes.
They are. Okay, fair enough. So for the record, so that don't get missed, next time we do a state contract, I'm asking if we could put somewhere in the document that it's a minority contractor.
The state typically does not put that in their contracts, but I will check into it to see if I could let you know, and Councilman Carnes, that it's a minority-based business.
Well, you got quite a bit of information on here, so it's.
I'll find out and I'll let you know.
Thank you.
I think what he was talking about was usually what we used to have on the agenda packets was, is this a minority vendor on all the packets in terms of purchasing on the front page? And it was indicated there so that we knew before we even opened the packet. So that's what we used to have.
State of Georgia does not identify on contracts. So I'll research when I'm looking at state of Georgia, piggyback off of so it can be indicated.
I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, this is on our front document, not on the contracts with Georgia. On our front document, we indicated that as a city, so that we were aware when we had a minority vendor, female business enterprise, in our package.
Once I find out.
So this is something that we used to do that I presume we can still do if
I
there's
think-
interest in still doing that.
I think we are doing it on, when the city of College Park is doing RFPs.
It's just the front page.
When he's doing, when we are dealing with a state contract, that information, Mr. Moody, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to hear what you're saying here, the information is different. And so, since it's not going through our process, which asks those questions, that is not readily available, but what you've said to us is that you will do your best to research to see if you can supply us with that information moving forward. Is that correct?
Yes, I have one comment. Then I'm puzzled. Then you just said that Wave Forward was a minority contractor, right? So if you can't identify that they're a minority contractor, then you're saying you choose state contractors without identifying or have a goal in mind.
Actually,
how do
on
you know?
Wave Forward's website, they have minority-owned dealership.
So it's easy for you to identify if it's a minority or female business enterprise.
When I research them, I can find out.
Okay, so this page, package page 301, this document we created, package page 301, Ms. Tyus. On package page 301, what I would like is somewhere for you to identify if the state contractor was a minority contractor or female business enterprise. That's a very simple request.
Noted, guys.
Thank you.
We took the note.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
And just to be clear.
Hold on
it's
one
not,
second. Councilman Carn, you've made the motion?
Yes.
Councilman Gay, you have seconded, correct?
Yes.
Just one little discussion, it not just for state contracts, just when we're purchasing items, we used to see that, so it'd be good to know.
We still have that.
We normally,
We still have that.
All right, well, that's
we
good to
normally
know.
do.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We do.
I have a question for Willis, though.
Yes, sir.
Let's say in this situation that you have several state contractors, and we know which ones are minority. You could, and they're negotiated with the state, if they can all fulfill the contract, then we'd be inclined to pick a minority contractor, I think what you're saying. If it's under state contract and the prices match, but all the state contract guarantees is that you will not charge more than this. Some state contractors could choose to choose less.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you would pick the one that was lowest if there were multiple state contractors that could provide. Now, in this particular case, these guys have done the smart thing, and they're in a position to provide all 25 cars, where somebody else might not be able to. Am I right on all those things?
Yes, and
Okay.
each
That's all I have.
dealership cannot have that access.
And that's because of size, the
Yeah,
volume that you all have.
having size and being smart.
That question. Sir, there is only one dealership that has a particular vehicle on state contract. So
Really?
We are the Ford Pursuit utility contractor for the
Okay,
state.
so in our case, there is no choice.
If you're going strictly by state contract, there's only one dealership that has a Dodge Charger. There's only one dealership that has a Ford F-150.
Okay, that's good to know.
So
Thank you.
that's the way they do that. They have multiple manufacturers, so it's a choice contract, so you can take a Chevy, a Ford, a Dodge, but there's only one dealership with a particular vehicle.
I remember
Thank
the
you.
Emmanuel Jones, the Legacy outfit used to have them, and
They have no state contract.
they don't have them anymore.
They never have.
So,
One point
I just want to be
Tony
clear on the
did.
vote. Anyone in opposition? Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, guys.
Item 8A is presentation on the scope of work by Peachtree Government Relations for the 2022 Georgia legislative session and consideration of the renewal of a legislative representation agreement between the City of College Park and PGR.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Okay.
I'd like to hear what they have to say.
Okay.
You guys are presenting, or?
Well, I mean,
They have a whole presentation.
yes, they do have a whole presentation, but there has been a motion. So Councilman Gay has made a motion to approve. Is there a second? We can have the discussion afterward.
I want to hear the presentation.
I'd like to hear the presentation.
The motion will die for a lack of a second.
Well, can we just table the motion and hear the presentation and then
Or
take?
you can withdraw the motion
Yeah,
until we've
yeah,
had
we
it.
just-
I withdraw the motion.
Reintroduce it.
All right.
yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Foley. Mr. Franklin?
Well, thank you all so much for the opportunity to be here. My name's Don Boley. I'm Principal of Peachtree Government Relations. I have with me here today Howard Franklin with the Ohio River South. We have teamed together once again for this project, and we hope there'll be an opportunity to continue to work together with the City College Park. We've had a number of great years of success, so we'll just go quickly through some of the folks that are at our firms that you can get a highlighting some of the names. As I said, Peachtree Government Relations as the my firm. We have some great folks with us. I've been doing this for 27 years. At least this is my 27th session. So we have over 50 years of experience in my firm alone, and I'll kind of quickly go through these slides of my firm and kind of highlight some of the individuals. Don Boley, as I mentioned, if you go to the next slide. Lord Norton, and this is some of the other folks at our firm. We don't want to take up too much of your time, so why don't I just go ahead and go to the Ohio River South slide.
Thank you guys for having us again, and if you'll go back, I think just one slide, you'll see members of my legislative team as well, who I think the important part here to underscore is that we did have a third member here this evening, but while we're not always here for these meetings, we are down at the General Assembly every day that we are in session and plenty of days that we are not, representing the interests of the great city of College Park. But just wanted to make sure we familiarize you guys with our team in case you guys haven't had a chance to meet everyone who's working in our employ.
On the next slide, we wanted to highlight a few pieces of legislation that we worked with on behalf of the City of College Park. As you know, last year we worked on probably the most important bill we don't have highlighted today, the most tax. So hopefully we'll see a great result in the upcoming referendum. But for this year, we worked on House Bill 1417, which is a homestead exemption. The bill was signed by the governor on the 18th of this year. April 18th, that is, and Howard's going to talk a little bit about House Bill 1093 and Senate Bill 494.
Sure. So I know that because of the communications we've been in with leaders here on the council as well as with the administration, quite a bit of attention was paid to so-called build-to-rent bills that were essentially preemptions on local government's ability to control land use in their respective communities. A lot of different organizations pushed back on this legislation. We were able to really galvanize a coalition of folks to push back on this legislation for the 2022 session. We do believe that this is probably the intent of some institutional investors in residential real estate, and so we expect that this is a fight we will have to continue to fight on your behalf, but wanted to let you know we were successful in the 22 session on this particular piece of legislation.
And just a side comment, I want to thank Mayor Motley Broom for coming to the Capitol and testifying against this legislation. And you'll see this theme over and over again as we talk about it, and we've talked about this for many years. Sometimes it's not necessarily what we pass, but we help make sure it does not get passed. And there are so many bills that continue to attack the integrity of cities and counties and their ability to govern themselves, and you see this often over and over again. I hear this all the time. Everyone loves their locals until they don't. And suddenly you want to have a preemption bill. So we'll see this over and over again, and that's the next bill that I want to talk about, House Bill 302. This bill would have limited the way you could charge a permit fee, and in particular was brought by the home builders and general contractors, as well as folks in the HVAC community that wanted to limit your ability to charge a permit fee. This would have limited you to an hourly basis. There were some amendments that made it a little better. They gave a little more latitude, but at the end of the day, the bill did not pass, and it was largely because we were able to work with lots of great groups that explained that this bill could have a lot of unintended consequences, so we were very thankful this bill did not pass. But I can promise you, just like with the bill that Howard talked about, the bill to rent, it's not going away. There's a lot of money interest in both of these types of legislation. Preemption is sort of the new thing that's happening down in the Capitol, and we're not going to see this stop anytime soon. And then I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the General Assembly and why it's so important to continue to stay active, and why we're thankful that you guys are as active as you are. To put it in perspective, there are 180 House members, 56 senators, so 236 members of the Georgia General Assembly. Just in retirements alone, the House is losing 40 members. So you're seeing a 22% turnover between the House and Senate, and that's before the elections happen. That's saying that no one loses their election in either the general primary coming up next week or the November general elections. So we could see anywhere from a 25 to 30% turnover in the General Assembly. So imagine every year a third of the body turning over, or every 2 years rather. So we wanted to highlight some of the folks that are leaving, and why it's so important that you all continue to stay involved, because a lot of institutional knowledge is leaving. A lot of folks who have held true to the concept of local control are leaving, and you have a lot of new faces that have to be educated on why these things are important. Next slide. And this is an example of the state senators that are retiring, again, 10 out of 56. And when you think about some of the folks that are retiring, these folks have a lot of knowledge. When you think about folks like Jeff Mullis, who've been a great protector of local control, you know, we are losing some great friends down at the General Assembly. Next slide. I don't know if you want to comment any on these races. We do have some updated numbers that we can share with you electronically if you like. These were old numbers that came out, but the latest disclosure did come out. I'll let Howard maybe comment on some of the statewide elections.
Yeah, so as you all know, we are in the second week of early voting, and we've got a primary election, a general primary election this upcoming Tuesday. And quite a bit has been going on in terms of the amount of early voting that's been turning in. So it looks like early voting is certainly a preference that the Georgia's general electorate has elected to support and to engage in. We don't have to get into all the individual races, but as you guys know, we've got every constitutional office up, as well as a U.S. Senate race as well, and we've got spirited primaries on both sides of the aisle. So to Don's earlier point, I mean, we're losing a lot of both institutional knowledge, and we may see some very new faces and new agendas down at the General Assembly, as well as at other jurisdictions that are going to matter to us, like our U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senate. So just wanted to highlight that because so much is going on in the election cycle. And of course, we're happy to talk about kind of what fundraising means and what it actually forebodes in terms of the outcomes of some of these races.
And one of the things I think this does highlight is we think we make such a great team between PGR and ORS because we bring a bipartisan approach to this, to lobbying. And you've got to have that because you don't know what's going to happen in November. Things could change rapidly. We could have a governor of one party and a House and Senate of another party. So you've got to be ready for those changes. And if you're not, you're going to be caught flat-footed. So I think that's one of the reasons why we make such a great team. We enjoy working together representing the city of College Park. I think that is you can probably skip through and get to the last slide. So again, we're glad to answer any questions and would love to continue to have an opportunity to represent the city.
Questions? Councilman Clay?
I think you answered the question I had as to why we're seeing so much preemption. And you think it's mostly an educational issue that these guys are not familiar with local government or haven't had the experience at that level?
Absolutely. There are a lot of new faces. There are folks that, you know, they want to get something done. They want to do something quickly. And the easiest way to do that is to pass a statewide law, regardless, of the unintended consequences. I think the other thing we're seeing, unfortunately, is that a lot of members of the General Assembly used to come from city councils, school boards, county commissions, and we're seeing fewer of them.
Okay, that's where I was going with my question.
And quite frankly, it's very expensive to be down at the General Assembly. They get paid $17,900 a year. If you are from a town in South Georgia or North Georgia, you have to travel many miles to get there, and you lose 3 to 4 months of income. And if you have an election you have to do, you might lose 6 months of income. So it's becoming more and more difficult, which is probably why you saw the General Assembly vote to have a pay increase because they realize that there is a lack of diversity among the General Assembly because not everyone can even afford to do it.
Okay. And the only other question I had was was responsible for House Bill 1417 as far as carrying the ball and monitoring the progress and et cetera, et cetera?
So Representative Bodie was the primary sponsor along with other members of the College Park delegation. We also worked very closely with staff and council on the
Actually, I was referring to on your team who was responsible.
We worked in tandem. Our team generally works together on every project. I certainly took the lead, but we work in tandem on every single item.
Okay, that's all I had.
Councilman Carr?
All right, thank y'all for coming out. And I spend a lot of time down there too myself over the years. I saw the gaming bills. I saw them, you know, they reared their head and then it fades back out. And, you know, I've seen this play over and over again, you know, one session, couple sessions, then they skip a session, it comes back. You know, they bring those bills up, you know, there's a truckload of money that's made off of those bills every session they come up, you know, so whether or not they ever pass one, yeah, you know, who knows, but a couple of things I wanted to talk about, and Ambrose did touch on. I really want to know what happened with HB 1417 in terms of what the situation is. And I wasn't here last year, so I need somebody to walk me through exactly what we did, what we didn't do, and how we ended up, and again, this is just what I'm told and I'm hearing, that we apparently, the governor signed legislation for us that was not what what this body voted on, I guess sometime last year. Well, just talk on that and then I'll do my next question, I guess.
So from a process standpoint, as I mentioned, Representative Bodie was the primary sponsor of the bill. Typically, when a legislator sponsors the bill, there's an office called Legislative Counsel. They draft the bill on behalf of the legislator. They work directly for the legislators. They're their lawyers, so to speak. Once that legislation is drafted, we did share it with council and staff. Council and staff reviewed it, and then the process moved from the House to the Senate. Both bodies approved it unanimously, and then, of course, it went to the governor's desk, and without any opposition, the governor usually does sign most bills unless there's a request for a veto.
Okay, that explains none of what I'm asking about at all. First of all, take me back to this body before I got back on council. I'm assuming this took place last year. Walk me from here to there so I can understand again what happened. And apparently there was a mix-up, unless there wasn't a mix-up and I was just told completely incorrectly.
Well, I'm not privy to all of your actions from a council standpoint. We don't attend all of your meetings, but we took all direction that we have from staff. So we're not necessarily privy to all your meetings and certainly didn't attend them.
So what, our staff? Are you talking about our staff?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm assuming this bill originated from the council, from mayor and council, right? Okay, and I know you guys know a whole lot more about it. So if somebody can just explain to me what happened, again, did it happen, and what was the mix-up exactly? Again, so I want you to explain that to me so I can understand what happened and what are our options to fix it if we need to fix it, or if it needs fixing, or so explain it to me.
Sure. So if you're asking what actions can occur at this point, there is a direction from the election superintendent at Fulton County to put the matter on the ballot. My understanding is there is a meeting what we've set up with the election superintendent tomorrow to discuss that very matter. If there are changes to be made, they can be made, but not until the 2023 session. And then whatever changes are made in that session could be put before the voters for a decision at that point. So
Okay,
there are remedies to it if you want to make changes.
That's great. I want to discuss that there are remedies too, though. So I want to get an explanation of what actually happened with the bill. Was there a mix-up with the bill? Was there a language change with the bill? How did it come from this body? And was there a miscommunication with it? Again, do you understand what I'm asking you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And you and I communicated often during this process. You were very involved. I think I actually sent you, emailed you directly a draft of the early bill as the General Assembly had drafted it. So I know we emailed several times. I'm pretty sure I sent you a link so that you could review the bill as drafted.
Well,
So from our
didn't-
standpoint, we sent the bill as it was drafted by Legislative Council. After it was actually dropped, we also sent it again. And then after the bill passed the House and Senate, we were informed the staff and council that it passed the House and Senate. And then after it was signed by the governor, we also informed it. So from our standpoint, we certainly took everything we were given and we gave it a chance for review with staff and council.
Okay, before it went to Legislative Council, I'm trying to get an understanding of what happened with the bill. I understand there were some language changes, and from my understanding, what the governor signed is not necessarily exactly what this body voted for. Are you following me? You're
Yes, sir.
skipping over that entire part here, so
Again,
maybe
we're
I'm not making myself clear enough.
And I apologize, but we weren't privy to all of those actions that the body voted for.
Okay, well, who can explain this to me in terms of what went on, and give me the timeline so I can get an understanding of exactly what happened on staff? And city manager, I don't know if you were here during a lot of this, or, so somebody explain it to me.
I'm not sure that what I would ask the council to do, for my understanding, associated with this issue, is let us get through the meeting that we have set up for tomorrow. And then I will, with all parties present, I will get a better understanding of what happened. So I am not capable right now.
Okay, and that's fine.
Credibility
That's fine.
to that.
Well, when y'all have that meeting, I want to make sure we get a couple of questions answered in that meeting, so when the next time you come back to us, I don't want it to be still, well, we don't know what happened. Make sure we're walking from whatever was put together up here, the consensus and the vote, to what's at the governor's desk and what's on the ballot and how we got there. So that's okay. All right, and the last thing I have, one of the things, coming back here, I know you guys have been doing this for a while. And me personally, I don't want to see any outfit. If there is a meeting with our state delegation, I'm not going to support any lobbyist that doesn't let this entire body know that those meetings are going on, regardless of what type or kind it is. Now, our state legislators gave me a call about a meeting that we had no clue about, the four of us up here. I don't want to see that happen with any outfit, and that's one of the reasons I held up in terms of what we were going to do with you guys. Now, you guys have enough experience. Well, I'm sure you all know better than that, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen again. I'm glad we got the most tax, and you guys have been working hard, but keep us informed, and I do mean keep us all informed. As you all know, this is a council manager form of government, so I need not tell you all that. That means everybody needs to know what's happening. And if there's a meeting down there under the Gold Dome, we all better darn well know about it. So that's all I got.
Councilman Allen?
Yeah, the only thing I have is, when we vote on something and the mayor signs something and it comes down, how does the change occur? What causes it to change? Because when it's signed by the governor, all of a sudden it's different, like we've been talking about, of what we voted for, and we don't know about it. So, or at least I didn't. So, who makes those changes, and how do they decide what changes to make for us?
So all legislation has to be drafted by Legislative Council. Again, they're the attorneys for the members of the General Assembly. So they actually draft everything. Once that happens, you have a chance to amend it or make changes from there. But all the legislation is not they will not accept a draft from any other entity. As their attorneys, they're going to draft it. They do give you a chance to amend it once it's been drafted.
And their attorney has the right to just change whatever we have put in there,
I think it's probably less of the right and more the thing that we spoke of earlier, where we're losing some of the institutional knowledge, and sometimes we find unintended consequences. We sometimes find attorneys mismatching the intent of legislation versus the verbiage that actually is ascribed to the page. I mean, so much changes oftentimes between the legislator's intent to put something forward and then what the legislative council believes is possible under the Georgia Constitution. So, speaking about the specific bill, I think we can spend some more time on trying to get exactly, to the bottom of what happens here. But I think it is important to know, we wish that it was as simple as, the legislature just listened to the municipality and did what it was instructed to do. But I think that you guys mentioned the most. I mean, that's a great case in point where we had lawmakers, pushing back against the intent of this body. And I think this is maybe, in this case, unintendedly so, not getting the letter of the law that came from this body and actually transcribing it for the General Assembly to vote on. There was obviously a tremendous amount of support for it, and we've got to get to the bottom on exactly, where there were some changes that might have been made. But as Don mentioned, 236 members, any member can amend a piece of legislation, and it just takes, a vote from that committee or that chamber to actually change what the intent of the legislation is.
And that was my only question. Okay.
Councilman Gay?
Well, I want to thank you about the most. I mean, I've been here for 8 years, and that was a lot of work on the most. I'm glad it fell on your watch. So congratulations. I will tell you that it appears to be, from what I'm seeing on social media, some pushback on that vote. I wish that you all could maybe, not now, but share with us ways that other cities have gotten legislation pushed through after it was signed by the governor, because until the people sign it, it doesn't matter anyways. So I wish that maybe you all could bring to our staff ways that we can better educate our community about the most tax. Because it's an important piece of legislation that doesn't seem to be being intelligently articulated in the community based on the social media that I'm reading.
And we're always glad to help in any way we can. We'll certainly take direction from council, mayor on that.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
And touching back on the most, the education in terms of, obviously we want a yes on this thing. I've seen the ads and it looks great, but in terms of understanding exactly what we're talking about, I guess, if you're coming into College Park, if you live in the city, you're not going to buy your washing machine here or we don't have car dealerships to speak of. I think we got some auto brokers, I guess. But in terms of, the types of purchases we're talking about generally, we're only 10 or 11 square miles. So it's not a whole lot of necessarily just regular shopping opportunities in terms of larger purchases and that type of stuff. But we're a hospitality city. I think the public needs to understand that penny is going to items that you purchase within the city limits. And a lot of times that doesn't equate to necessarily a huge tax burden on residents. Because we're a hospitality city, yes, we have a little less than 15,000 people. We swell to 150, 200,000 people per day. Those are, I think that's where the most tax has its most, efficacy, I guess, more or less. And I think the campaign kind of misses that. I think that's kind of what he's touching on. So I think there's a better way to explain it to residents, if we want the yes, sure. I guess so, and that's if. So I'd like to, at some point get a.
Mayor, I have one more question. So I know you guys are going to get into it on a phone call tomorrow, and I don't want to preempt that. But the questions that Councilman Carn asked, I do want answers to those same questions. And I would say that just as an engineer that designs other systems, I look for feedback, I look for verification, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't want to get into how it got triggered. You can talk about tomorrow. But at some point, I want an answer as to whom the legislation was passed to here on staff, if it was passed. To whom was it passed? How often was it passed? In time to make changes to it, because you mentioned that should be part of the process. So to whoever that was presented to should have known the will of the council. We created a draft of the legislation, and I realize our draft doesn't count, but I think our guys probably did a pretty good job on it. And if there were changes to that, someone on staff should have known, and if it was not what council had intended, we should have been notified, and we should have been brought into the loop. And I want to know what went wrong with that.
We're certainly going to be working with the city manager very closely to answer those questions.
Thank you.
And Don, last thing. Now, Don, you still handle BIDA, right? Is it?
Sorry, what's that?
Do you handle BIDA? Okay, no, you don't. Okay, I just wanted to. Okay. Is that another Don, or is that Dan? Dan. Okay, got it. Okay, all right.
Dan Lee.
Okay, got it.
That's Dan Lee.
All right.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Gay, second by Councilman Clay to approve the contract with PGR.
To approve
Is
the
that correct?
contract, correct.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
We appreciate
All right.
it.
Item 8B is consideration of an action on a request for approval of material and supplies for restock and to serve Hawthorne Station homes. Good evening, Mr. Richardson.
Good evening.
Questions for Mr. Richardson? Councilman Clay?
I have no questions. I'm ready to move to approve.
Councilman Carn?
I guess this is right. This is for the new outfit, right?
That's right, the 300 homes.
Right,
yeah.
Got it. Okay, yeah. I second it.
It's a motion by Councilman Clay. Councilman Clay, you made it a motion to approve?
Yeah, I move to approve.
Okay,
It's
Councilman
all
Carn
makes sense.
seconded. Councilman Allen, any comments?
Yes, I just like to know delivery dates. Are we having any problems? Do we expect any problems?
Yeah, I mean, some of this material you see in there is up to 50 weeks, but that's transformers. Luckily, we already have enough transformers in stock to serve them. So our next challenge is the conduit. So that's 7 or 8 weeks out. So we'll probably start putting that in July, lighting more like August or September.
Okay, we just need to stay ahead of it.
Right.
Don't,
Right.
yeah, okay.
Yep.
Councilman Gay, any questions?
No, Mr. Richardson.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 8C, GICC Security Control System and Camera Upgrade.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Gay.
I second.
Wait, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. There is no old business, new business. 10A, consideration of an approval to allow the city manager to, give me one moment. Let me go back to my own notes. To approve, consideration of an approval to allow the city manager to get a new broker of record for liability insurance.
Yes.
Ms. Tyus?
Yes. We received the estimates for our liability insurance after this package had been sent out to council. I'm sorry. We received the results from our existing broker after the package had been received. When I looked at the package, there were things that I noticed, like a healthy loss ratio, and the loss ratio that this city had in 5 years ago was 15%. The city of College Park is now the benefactor of an 86% loss ratio on our liability insurance. Our premiums have gone up by 52% in the last 5 years, and we are operating without an emergency management plan. It's actually not practical to think that a city could operate and manage its mitigated losses without a loss prevention plan. And so with that, we have a solid time constraint. Our premiums will expire on the 30th of June. And so with the, so it's time sensitive. I'd like to replace the broker, get out some, have a new broker reissue a request on our behalf, and move immediately to have them work with us to develop an emergency plan to mitigate some of the loss. It's been pretty amazing. We don't have an agreement with the current broker, we don't have an agreement with the current broker. We have
That's
been.
Apex, is that right?
Mm-hmm. We have been without a contract with them for the last 5 years at least, just renewing annually. So I'd like the council to allow me to replace the broker of record, so that I can quickly move to make sure that we have no lapse in our liability policy going into our new fiscal year.
So, City Manager, you have two steps. One of them is to get our agreement that we want to go to another broker.
Yes, sir.
And then, don't we have to approve whoever you select as a broker?
So working with legal, working with our legal staff, it can actually be done with a letter from the city manager. There's an exception in the procurement rule that says that for a list of things, of which shopping liability insurance is one. So we have the rules and regulations.
Okay, so we don't have to bring it back, and we need to move fast on it.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to move to approve to give you that permission.
Thank you, sir.
Is there a second?
Second with discussion.
Okay, Councilman Carn has seconded.
Go a couple of things enough. Good information. Who is our broker now?
The broker is
Is that Apex?
Apex.
Apex.
Apex. Remember
So-
when we were going through the budget and everybody had a piece of Apex?
I do remember now. Okay,
ma'am.
so, and you mentioned the 87% rate and this, that, and the other. Explain that to me so I can get an understanding of what
Yes.
we're talking about here.
So what makes us a terrible insurance risk is that what companies like is for the premium that you pay, that they pay out no more than 15 to 30% of that on claims against you. We're now paying out 86% of the premiums that we pay to claims. But that's because we don't mitigate anything and we don't fight anything. So we
Right.
just pay.
I know when I first got back here, I was surprised. I just, well, I guess that's for another type of discussion, but I said to myself, boy, there's a lot of rolling over going on here. But I guess what happened? Did I guess we just picked the wrong outfit? Is that
No,
kind
I
of
don't
what
know
you
that
think?
we
or-
picked the wrong outfit as much as we stopped paying attention.
Okay, and the other last thing, obviously I'm supporting what we got to do it. Did that affect our ISO rating with insurance and fire and stuff? Or?
I'm not sure what that is.
Okay, well, Chief's not here, I guess. All right, we'll follow up with him on that in the morning. I'd just like to know that, but yeah, I support it. I second it.
Discussion.
Councilman Allen?
Yeah, I just think this is something that we need to do, and we need to look at it. Thank you for finding it and checking on it, because it means you're on top of things, so I appreciate that. And it's time, when we do contract after contract after contract, and people get used to getting the same contract, sometimes you start losing service, and they forget who their customer is. So I think it's time to look at another broker, so thank you.
Councilman Gay?
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues, but I just have a quick questions.
Yes, sir.
Do you know if Apex is a minority or a woman-owned firm? Do you know?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't.
Can you find that out for
I
us?
sure can.
My second question is, so if our loss ratio and our premiums is the urgency to use another broker because our rates have gone up, then how are you going to shop for another carrier when they all use our loss ratio? I mean, explain to me, how do changing them get a lower rate?
I didn't suggest that changing them would get a lower rate. I did not suggest that. I'm not even sure I believe it will. What it will get us is somebody else paying attention to it, and it will get somebody to work with us on the loss mitigation plan, which we do not have at all.
I understand. So you're saying the new carrier is gonna do, so you're not looking for a lower rate? What you're saying, I just wanna learn. What you're saying is, you wanna use another carrier, it's almost like a sole source, because they didn't give us a loss mitigation plan? A loss prevention plan?
Right, they didn't give us.
They didn't come in and train us how to not incur risk.
Right.
Like not trip and fall.
Right. For years.
For years.
For years, yes.
A new broker.
So when you choose a new broker, are you gonna bring to this body exactly what that plan they propose
Absolutely.
before you hire them?
No, you can't do it before you hire them.
Really?
So they're getting ready to get hired now. You can't, I need to change that broker right now.
Do you know who they are
Like
tonight?
tomorrow, I'm working on it, on the details now.
But you do have a broker in mind?
I do have a broker in mind, but I gotta work on the details, and so
And,
I'll be able to say
I'm
it
just
tomorrow.
asking this out of ignorance. Is it someone that you worked with before, or were they referred to you because they have a great loss prevention program?
So I was familiar with them, through DC. I was familiar with the firm.
In DC? I see. Okay.
They're not based out of DC, but it was through a DC connection that I knew them. They're based out of Georgia.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 10B, approval for city manager to identify a recruiter for positions of economic development director, city engineer, and
Chief Building Inspector.
chief building inspector.
I know you have trouble with my handwriting.
Motion?
Second.
Hold on, wait, Ms. Tyus, did you want to say anything?
They
Okay.
motion in second.
Okay, all right, Councilman Gay's made the motion. Is
I
there a
said
second?
second, Mayor.
Councilman Clay, thank you.
Discussion. Now, we're gonna you're going out to shop a recruiter for these positions?
So we put out an RFP for a recruiter to do all three of them. It's just the bid closes on the 19th. So the bid closes at the end of this week.
Right.
And so I'm asking your approval for me to go ahead and select a recruiter, and then we can ratify that particular contract at the next council meeting. But I need to get them started. And let me just note that the council was correct when you questioned the level of the engineering position that we had. We have restored that position to a city engineer, and it was restored in the budget as well.
Okay, well, back to the recruiter, I guess, I'd like to know what we're gonna be spending. That'd be one thing. I know you got this on the 19th, so I guess you're gonna pick out whichever one?
Yes, sir.
Are they all ballpark around the same money, or?
They should be meeting the requirement, and the upper level of the solicitation that we put out was 40,000.
For all three together?
Yep, because we need them administratively to go through and vet all of the people. They don't necessarily have to do a search. The energy around those positions was high, but so that recruiter will use some of their base. They will use all of our base, as they get us through.
All right, and I guess I can call you with the details, whatever. I'm assuming we got good numbers of applicants and all that.
Yes.
All right, okay, well, I want to, okay, all right.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move forward. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, that is unanimous. 10C is the approval of Daryl Roberts to the Planning and Zoning Board. Is that from Ward 4? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilman.
Second.
Councilman Gay, and Councilman Carn seconded that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. And item 10D, the approval of Charles German to the Board of Zoning and Appeals, also from Ward 4, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilman Gay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, I think I heard Councilman Allen first. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was unanimous. All right, moving on to the city attorney's report.
Nothing this evening, Madam Mayor.
City manager's report.
Want to thank your whole team for the efforts that they put into the hiring event. I think we were trying to explain to you guys the difference between a hiring event and a job fair. A hiring event, you're reaching out to the specific talent that you need, and you're positioned to make offers on the spot. So we had about 50 positions up, and we extended offers to and/or are processing 13 positions. And I can also tell you we are ecstatic that in that process we also found the Main Street director. And just to give you comfort, we've met with this candidate and the Main Street Board, and they voted unanimously that this was the candidate to carry Main Street through. So we're just excited about how effective that was. Second thing, I want to have the council know, I'll send it to you because Melissa already prepared it for us. She's prepared the announcement that's going to go out to the community immediately, informing them of the improvements that'll happen at Lee and Virginia. We will also immediately install the stop signs, and they'll likely be covered for just a little while we make sure that we've done a good notification of the community of the fact that change is coming. We're doing the stop signs immediately to kind of control the area while while they're engineering the stop lights. So we'll get the stop signs in, and the stop lights are being engineered. So I want to give you guys those.
Madam City Manager, can I just ask what the timetable would be on the installation of an actual stoplight at that intersection? Okay. And for those of you who may not have heard that online, by the end of the calendar year was Mr. Richardson's response.
Right. But that's why we're doing the stop signs, because we knew we need to do something now while he engineers and orders all of those parts. And that concludes my city manager report. No, I'm sorry, I can't do that. This weekend was an amazing weekend for the city of College Park. I have never spent, well, that's the most time I've spent outside doing first one thing and then another in the city, and it was just amazing. So because I saw so many of you all along the way, I'll let you do the report on that. But I am happy with the kinds of activities that we're engaged in College Park over the weekend. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll move on to the report of Mayor and Council. Councilman Clay?
Yes, well, wanted to talk a little bit about parking, and I appreciate you staying. What is the situation with parking, double parking down by ATL?
He had to leave, Councilman Clay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I saw him out there.
He had a issue at his restaurant with valet, so.
So what, all right, I'll ask anybody. What is the situation with parking out, double parking out by ATL? Police chief?
Is that the restaurant that just?
Yes, A-Y-E-T-E-A-E-L-L-E, A-T-L.
Councilman Clay, I'm not aware of any double parking issues that they have. Like he stated, when they expect a high crowd volume, they typically will employ off-duty officers.
See, Mayor, that's the problem when sometimes we need to talk about things at the time people are actually here. So here we've got a question and we don't know the answer to it.
Well, I think we have the opportunity to follow up on this. And get
when
the
we
answer.
follow up on it, the problem with that is that when we follow up on it, the citizens don't hear the answer. I may hear the answer, a couple of us may hear the answer, but the citizens who would like to know, and we're trying to be totally open on things, would like to know the answer to some of these questions. So I would like to know what the story is on ATL and the parking situation there and how we're enforcing it. And if you can't answer that right now, let's answer it next council meeting so all the citizens can hear.
I would like to add, though, that not all of the people that double park there are ATL customers.
In that area, in the area of the block
The
parking.
hair salons that are stopped waiting for somebody to come out as well. So for us, we try to make sure that if we enforcing it, we try to make sure that we keep them moving because most of the time they're in their car. They haven't left it. But when ATL is in operation, typically it's after hours, and if they expect a high crowd volume, they have officers outside.
Madam City Manager, is there an opportunity to include this in your report next time so we get an update on the situation and you and your team can do the research to get the questions answered?
We can. And let me just share our process, just so you can know how much attention we pay to your concerns. So the Wednesday morning after we meet here, so on Wednesday morning, 9 o'clock, my entire team is on the call with me, and the agenda is going through all of the information that we got from you. That's why we knew how to bring some good information for the workshops. That's how I know that we're following up. So it won't be 2 weeks before it won't be the next council meeting when you have to get that. And I will include an update on anything that you all want in my meetings, but we're paying attention to everything that you all say on our Wednesday call. So if you would allow us the opportunity to do research and get good information, so they can come here, and if they don't have it, they don't have it, but we can make sure that we have it as we do our debriefings on Wednesday morning.
But, and I appreciate that. But this brings me back to, now that we're in that discussion, what Councilman Carn was saying the other day. We got into a debate, a discussion about whether department heads need to be here at this meeting. And I know that everybody is trying to avoid department heads being here at this meeting. And I'm sympathetic to that. But you know, on the weekend before a council meeting, I probably spend a good half of the weekend preparing for the council meeting. There's a whole lot of things I'd rather be doing than going through all the material for the council meeting. I think it's important, if we're going to have an open city, we've done a lot to put things out on the web, we've videoing the meeting, we're live streaming the meeting. I think the citizens would like to hear some of the answers to the questions. I would like to hear them at the time, but okay, I can live with it. I can live with you reporting to me after the Wednesday morning meeting. But I'd like to have the citizens be able to hear the answer. Why I give a heads up before every council meeting to every department head is so that they know the questions that I'm going to ask before the meeting. And I get those answers typically before the meeting. And so I frequently say, I don't have any questions. I got my answers. But if I feel there's an answer that's important to the rest of the council that they need to hear, I will bring it out. And I think the citizens need to hear that. But if something comes up during the meeting and there's nobody here to answer that question, then we've got to wait. And by the time we get the answer, nobody else hears the answer. I may hear it. So I think we need to think seriously. I support what Joe said, that we may need to have more department heads here.
And what's important to me, sir, and council and Madam Mayor, is that my team have the best opportunity to be prepared. When they, and so I get it. Please allow me to figure out how we communicate differently the answers to your questions, and I'm just not sure that it is having them physically here. And I'd like to spend some more time kind of explaining to you all the backdrop behind that so that you'll understand what I see.
Well, if it's a, city manager, I'm sorry, but if it's a matter of accommodating the department heads, believe me, they deserve to be accommodated, but everybody has a job to do, and part of this job is more than just 9 to 5.
And they do that all the
and
time.
I need you to, we need to have some more conversation, I think, on how to make this work better.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I wasn't planning to go into that, but we did. More about parking. We just had a couple people on Rugby today receive notices from the post office that if they don't get the problem with mail delivery straightened out by the 23rd, that's this month, they will be in trouble. And the reason is because people are parking in front of their mailboxes. We have people parking in front of fire hydrants. We have people parking in the yellow. While I was in the meeting tonight, I got a text message from a very angry resident who said someone parking in front of their house who had apparently had somebody parking next to the fire plug in front of their house, in the process of backing out, took out their mailbox and drove off, of course. They sent me a picture of the people parking next to the fire hydrant. So the question is, we've got to do something about enforcing parking. We should not have people, I see the fire chief sitting out there, and I'm glad he's here for the meeting, he shouldn't have to fight a car parked in front of the fire hydrant if we have a fire there. I had a conversation the other day. I'm not going to go into names and details, except to say I got into a discussion about the parking issue downtown. And I was concerned that we were not providing enough parking places at the new development at the old Pure gas station. And it was being kind of glossed over. And, well, they may take an exception to that, and, you know, we've got other parking around there on the side streets. And the problem with that, of course, is that it impacts the residents, and it just exacerbates the problem up there. And the person that I was having the discussion with was disagreeing with me, and they said, well, in Chicago, people do this all the time. They have cars parked all in front of their houses, and, you know, you just have to search for a parking place or whatever. That was the conclusion I drew from it. So one of the things that comes to me is, and it relates to an earlier discussion, that we need to think about the city we want. And the mayor frequently talks about she disappeared. She frequently talks about well, somebody tell her what I said.
The city you deserve.
So she frequently talks about the city that we deserve. Well, I think we deserve a city that does not have cars blocking our mailboxes or our water hydrants. And frankly, I also feel that we don't deserve B&Bs, but that's the other conversation next to us. So we have a disagreement on that issue. But we really need to come to terms with where we want this city to go, I think. Is it for the businesses or is it for the residences? And we're making a transition into a different kind of city. And I think there should be preference given to the people that actually live here and pay property taxes here and live in their own house. So that's me editorializing, and I think that might be the whole thing. But we do need to get the problem fixed for the people that are going to get their mail shut off on Rugby on the 23rd.
Is it rugby and what?
Pardon?
Rugby and what?
Well, pretty much anywhere along Rugby for about the first 3 blocks off of Main Street. I'll give you more specific. I don't want to mention names on the air.
Okay, do that.
I'll tell you who I got it from, but I didn't want to broadcast it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
I think I've said enough, probably.
Okay, since I'm in charge.
Yeah, yes.
Councilman Carnes.
You were for about 2 seconds. All right, yeah, and Ambrose touched on a few things that I wanted to touch on. And when we were talking about the, what was that, the public hearing about, I forget what it was now, of the budget. That is where the rubber meets the road. That document is probably one of the most important documents for residents, and very few were here as we were debating it, going back and forth, and trying to figure out the best allocation of residents' tax-paying dollars. I love to hear that kind of discussion. Yes, it's messy. Yes, it can be back and forth and get argumentative. But it's your money, and you should be making a fuss sometimes about it. We fight for it, and everybody up here, I believe, wants the best, absolute best for every resident in College Park. We have different ways and philosophies, but at the end of the day, we really care, and when we make a decision up here, it's going to be our best bet. With that being said, great weekend, very exciting, lots of events, staff, everybody, residents, citizens. It was very exciting. I had an event outside of the city, but quite a few residents were there, at least 40, 50 or so, and we had a great time over in Douglas County. I want to thank the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Pounds, for helping coordinate with some of our state representatives as well for that event. We had upwards of 1,000 people there, and it was really something. The young people had a great time. We filled that pond with 2,500 pounds of catfish, and we got fishing rods donated, and taught those kids how to fish. It was really something. And I mentioned several kids would go across the street from the pond to where we had the food going. The union, Dewey McLean, I want to thank Dewey McLean for the AFL-CIO coming in and doing hot dogs and hamburgers and all of that. But the kids would take the catfish that they catch, and they would go over to where the food was being cooked, and we had 2 fish frying stations, and several kids would walk up with their catfish, demanding that their fish be cooked on the spot. And of course, we weren't cooking live fish. We got donations from Kroger for whiting fillets, but it was really fun. Everybody had a great time. I got quite a few things. Some of my previous concerns, the meeting, city manager with the Road Street crew, and process and that explanation. I still haven't heard anything from anybody. So this is the... Council
member, I need you to clarify with me what you are actually looking for. because I know that, please let's talk about this one again offline, because I know
Okay.
that Jackson took you
Okay.
out, and then I thought that you were looking for the folk who designed it, who no longer work for us. We bought the plan and we own it.
Right.
So you gotta tell me what you're looking for.
Well, whoever's out there doing it right now. I
Okay.
wanted to get with them and so we could walk me through it there on site.
Wait, so, right, so
that's
you
what
wanna
we
go
wanna-
on site to where they're doing it?
Right, well, same, that's exactly what I
That's
said the
what we
last
need.
time. I wanted someone to walk me through the site, explain to me the bridge, the whole
Right.
nine. So
Okay.
let's try to
So
plan
I
that.
continue to have misunderstood what
Okay.
you're asking us
Okay,
for,
so
because I
we-
thought Jackson had done that.
Okay.
and So,
So we got it now, right?
yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Yeah, great weekend. I mean, that really shows we're a hospitality city. And, that means we want to, that means twice as clean. That means making sure that we're on our P's and Q's. The parking issues, like Ambrose said, it's a big issue. And I know I talked about that with the police and Parks and Recreation. And I wouldn't want anyone, parking in front of fire hydrants, blocking driveways, all this type of business. We got to enforce that. But we got to just talk to each other more and coordinate more, because it gets crowded here in the weekends. But I guess it's a good problem to have, because people want to come out and enjoy our parks, enjoy the track field, enjoy the baseball and all the different stuff that we're doing. But it takes a lot of management for that. In a hospitality city, things get pretty hot on the weekends. And a lot of times, city manager, that's when we have the least amount of staff. When, quite frankly, we got the opposite in terms of activity and need. So I don't know. I know we had talked about finding some folks that could understand our weekend dynamics, because it's real. I mean, hey, this is what we got, y'all. We're hot as a firecracker on the weekends. But if we're understaffed, it may not go as well as we want it to go. So just something to look at there. And speaking of staff, again, you all are doing a great job. I am I'm proud of everyone and the efforts that we're doing and the things that we are doing. We are raising the bar. We are attempting to raise the bar here. Now, in terms of department heads being here, here's what's important to me. And I don't believe this is a matter of, it's a matter of policy. When we have a city council meeting, it's not just our meeting. This is the people's meeting. And they as well look forward to a full report. And that means department heads being here. Anyone making the type of salaries that we do, and hey, and if that means over the six figures, that's what we do. And, I expect them here. So, hey, that's my expectation. We got to be able to communicate and get the questions answered. And we need staff here. We need everybody on deck at the council meetings. I expect everybody here. Every department head that is a department head, I expect them to be here. And I don't see an issue with that at all. A couple other things, just follow-up stuff. The neighbor newspapers, follow up there. I'd like to make sure we don't forget that, unless we have an update in terms of what they're able to do for us. Okay, well, again, I want to make sure we follow up on that and find out where we're at with that. I have one question about our apartment complexes in terms of the licenses. Do they all, Shavela, do they all renew at the same time? Or
Yeah, they all have to renew by March.
so every single apartment complex? Okay, I know I mentioned a couple of times at some point I wanted to look at that apartment ordinance in terms of tightening things up, in terms of the responsibility of the owners. We don't have direct contact numbers for a lot of these owners. We don't know who they are. They hide behind the LLCs, and some live in Georgia, some live somewhere in the U.S., some live out of the country. We don't know where they are. You know, Chief, if we had a big fire at some of these apartment complexes, we wouldn't know who, we couldn't get the owner on the phone, not the owner. And that's important. That seems like, to me, something that we need to actually have a direct line where if we have an issue, we can get in touch with them. Obviously, a lot of our issues are in and around our apartment communities. A couple other things I had. What was that? Hugh, I got a purple light still shining on Frontage Road, right between 2800 and 2900, right there. So if you can get that one. We've got the paving. Melissa, it is first class. It looks very good, and I want to thank the outfit and you guys coordinating with them to make sure that happened. The residents were very, very pleased. I mentioned the truck signs in terms of we got a lot of tractor trailers that were parked along Frontage Road at the end of the road, on the side of the road, and we've got those great-looking truck signs that say $1,000 fines, no semi-parking. So I want to see a few of those up and along Frontage Road, so people know that that's not the place to park and rest, and you know they got truck stops for that, and it's not a truck stop. Let's see, what else did I have here? One of the other things I said, when we talk about information and staying informed, I was trying to figure out what happened to our monthly department reports. In addition to getting this city council packet, for me, one of the most important documents, piles of paper that I got every month was the monthly department reports. That kept me up to speed in terms of what was going on, what we're working on, what we're doing, what projects are going, what projects are stopped, what projects are coming down the line. We used to get that once a month from all of the department heads. City manager, I'd like to see the monthly department reports, the way we used to get them. And Mercedes, I believe when you were manager, were they still getting those then, or?
No.
So they were not getting them?
No.
Well, I certainly could use them.
And guys, the only thing I'll say is, as we plan how we do it, you gotta leave some room for them to do work.
I understand.
So I'm just saying, you gotta leave some room
Gotcha.
for them to do work.
Absolutely.
I'm not being argumentative, but I'm just saying we're managing a different
Right.
ship, and so, okay.
Well,
I'm not trying to get.
I got you.
Yeah.
And this is part of the work. This is something they did every month, like clockwork, and it wasn't an issue at all. And it kept us very informed in terms of what was happening and what was going on. Also, we got a weekly information letter from city manager. We need that as well.
Not weekly.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, got it.
Okay, we definitely need that as well. We would get the schedule in terms of a weekly schedule, so we would know what's going on and what we're doing. I remember I saw you the other day, and you mentioned that you just left, had a meeting with the city of Atlanta. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what did we meet about? Did we get some good news? How did it go? I meet with a lot of city of Atlanta officials all the time, so I'd like to know what we're doing and what we're working on and how we're making progress on it or what's happening. I want to be informed. I want to be more informed, and maybe I'm the only one, but I certainly do, because that kept me up on things that were happening so we could see where we're going, as an entire body. Last thing I talk about is this gun carry law. I think I mentioned it to, the city attorney. I think I talked to you about it. Maybe I didn't.
That's what you were trying to call me about the other day.
Yeah, the Georgia, they call it the constitutional carry, guns carry law. This thing was passed, and a lot of folks, in particular young folks, 30-somethings and 20-something-year-olds, they interpreted that bill to be kind of a authorization of some limited police powers for residents. And it just occurred to me, that's a very dangerous proposition if you don't understand what it actually means in terms of walking around where you can legally in the state of Georgia just walk around carrying a gun in your pocket, no problem, just, anywhere. And my thought was maybe some kind of a disclaimer for our city where, okay, yeah, the state allows you to do that, but here are a list of the types of gun charges you could be looking at just from walking around with these things, just because you can legally do something. I don't think young people know the ramifications of how much trouble they could get themselves into. And, people are saying, oh, now we can carry anywhere we want, it's no problem. You got some 25-year-old kid, they could be walking around College Park and have a gun in their hand, and they may see a friend, 100 yards up the street, and they can wave at them with the gun in their hand. That's a charge. That's a charge. And these kids need to be aware of some of this stuff that's going on. And I just thought to myself, well, preventative stuff is always a good thing. And I look at things that I see. And I thought it might be good if we just came up with a list just as a warning so people knew you might have heard about this thing, but just so you know, these are the numerous types of charges you could be looking at just by walking around with those things. So, and this is just stuff I see and I hear about, and I talk about with residents. I mentioned the effort to establish some type of a MBE, female business enterprise goals, when it comes to purchasing in all departments. So I would like to, at some point, put something on a workshop and talk around it and see if we can come up with some type of a reasonable goal for that. And I think that's all I got. A couple other things I could just talk with department heads individually about it. So, again, condolences to the Jenkins family. He was a great officer, and I hated to see him leave. When he left the city of College Park, but it's just amazing how you never know what's going to be going on out here. Folks, we just got to be so careful out here. So that's condolences to the Jenkins family. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Allen?
Okay. First of all, yes, there was a lot going on in the city for about the past week and a half. First of all, Mercedes, the Atlanta Dream, the stadium I think that's the first time I've ever seen it packed. Has it ever been full? And I mean, I just thought it was great. Hopefully we made a lot of money on the food, and the kids were having a great time. Just really appreciate that. On Saturday, Marcus Grissom had a baseball opening day. It was fabulous to see kids out there, 152, I think he said, but from 6 years old up to about 10 or 12, and they're all sitting around the baseball field, and when we had the national anthem, every single one of them stood up, took their hat off, put it over their heart while the national anthem was going on. And to see a bunch of 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds, it just does my heart good. So, and I think Michelle knew every one of them's name. They were all cheering her on and so forth. But Ignite had a book program off of Southampton near Godby Road for one of the apartments. And there were a lot of kids over there picking up books, and adults. And these weren't just books for reading, they were books for learning. The police were out there. Thank you, Police Chief, for having the folks out there cooking. That was great to see all the interaction between the kids and the police. It was just a great day. So, Ignite, Jamel, thank you for all your team. A week ago, Saturday, the Atlanta National Chorus Guild sang in College Park, and there weren't very many people there at St. John's Episcopal Church. So next year when they come, which they do every spring, it was a fantastic chorus. I hope we can get a lot of people there. Maybe we can put it on our billboard out front where people can know that it's going on, because when you have the Atlanta Chorus Guild come out here, it's something special, and they do it every single spring. So let's try to support them a little bit. Things happen so quick. Hugh, your power people, I don't know how they took care of everything yesterday with all the rain that came down so fast in the streets. I mean, we had a lot of people, I'm sure, out there working, so thanks to them. I've never seen it come down so fast. And Saturday, between 2 and 4, don't forget McLaren High School is having graduation. It's very, very important to those people. They have studied, they've worked hard, and it's going to be great to see them graduate. So I think that's this coming Saturday.
I thought it was during the week. It's on my calendar.
During the week?
Yeah, it's during the week, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure it's during the week.
Friday.
Is it Friday?
Yeah, Friday.
Friday from 2 to 4. So, you know, that's just good. Congratulations to all those people.
It's always
And,
inspiring.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Councilman Gay?
Yes, well, I also want to echo congratulations to all of the graduates. We have a lot of high school graduates. I see their signs in the yard all over the city. Colleges graduated. I know those parents are proud. My son graduated from Morehouse in Columbia, and my daughter graduated. She's at Ole Miss, so I just know those parents are super excited. So congratulations to our kids and the parents that supported them. We had condolences to one of our former water and sewer supervisors, Fred Madby. Fred worked here for years. His son passed. I did go to the wake, so condolences to his family. Fred, for those of you who visit Phillips Park, Fred and Building and Grounds built the monument to Carl Harper, who was a water and sewer employee who died. And the reason why we have a monument is because they defied some of the rules, and they actually built that without permission. And they got in trouble, but it's there now. So thanks to those guys for recognizing those employees that's no longer here. City Manager, this body did agree on a finance report that comes to us quarterly. It's in the minutes if y'all want to check it, but we have not received those reports. I agree with the council member that the monthly, or I guess it was weekly, the manager report, I found it quite elating. I saw Terrence Moore, he used to prepare a report. And matter of fact, that's really how I kept up. Reminded me of how things were going. So the city manager, I don't know if it was monthly. Was it monthly or was it weekly?
Well, the city manager was weekly, and the department heads was a monthly packet.
Yeah, and there's a template, so if you look at some of Terrence's, it's probably quite easy to put together. I would like to know from the Public Works Director, what streets are set up to be paved in June? What streets are set up to be paved in June? From this last year's splash, not the T-splash that we just approved. What streets are paved in June?
Oh, from the LMID?
Yes.
The next set would be, off the bat, it's 2 streets that we had presented to council. I tried to pull it up.
Okay.
That's left from the LMID.
Okay. And I would like for us to have some type of equitable system on how we're gonna pay the streets from the T-splash that we approved tonight.
Yes.
And I wish that we could look at when the last time it was paid, if that has anything to do with conditions. And I'm sure there's some other parameters, but that should be one. Quite a few streets have been paved, so I don't expect us to pave streets over that's been paved. Quite a few streets have been paved.
Okay.
I also, talking about department heads staying at the meetings. So I have a question. Our mayor and council secretary is here, and I understand that she's required to stay.
Who?
Our mayor and council secretary is at our meetings. is she required to stay? Or
No,
is she here
she's not.
voluntarily?
No, she's not.
She's not required to stay?
No, she is not.
Well, she's not required to stay. Do we, is, on council, are we requiring her to stay? Council, are we requiring, do we?
No, but I was glad to see her out there from time to time.
I mean, yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
But
she may be misunderstanding. She may not know that she's not required to stay.
Okay.
Okay? So, did you pull up the streets? While you do that, I just got two more. Mercedes Miller team put up banners on Main, formerly Roosevelt Highway. I was shocked. I didn't even, I knew they were here, but when I drove down the street, I was at awe on just how that made a difference. And for those who you don't know, that was passed by this council that we renamed Roosevelt to Herschel Main Street and marketed as a hospitality district because of the hotels, the business parks, the multi-million-dollar parking deck by the City of Atlanta. So, very exciting to see those banners. I know we're gonna bring this back, but just want to touch a bit on the senior exemption. I know that we're gonna get a thorough report, but I did look into some of the things. I was talking to my wife today, and she says, well, it was a public notice. So anybody who wanted to read it, that's the legal way that you're supposed to recognize it. It's a public notice, and it was advertised twice. It was advertised twice. That's the law. If an elected official or a lay person want to look at it, that is a great opportunity to look at anything that's required to be posted. The second thing is that the voters at the end of the day have to decide. It don't matter what we did or didn't do, if we did anything at all. It's still up for the voters. The voters are the final arbiter. If an elected official or committee or a naysayer or a supporter want to go out and knock on doors or sound the clarion call, that's your constitutional right. So that's where it needs to be attacked. It don't need to be attacked by people who work hard and who are professionals. That's where you attack it. The third thing is, someone says to me today, well, maybe people who are 65 and older who have a $100,000 tax portfolio may take advantage. I said, you know what? 10 of the richest men in America pay less tax than probably all of us in this room. That ain't fair either. And so someone said, well, if there are people who don't want to get the exemption, don't apply. If you feel that your family don't need that exemption, don't apply. It's that simple. You apply for it. It's not given to you. And the last thing I want to say, and I don't have to say this because it was supported by unanimously, but so real quick, Shirley Robinson came to me and said, Councilman Gay, why are we paying city tax if we're exempt from homestead exemption? I said, good point. We brought it up here, it was passed. Then it went on through the process. But look, there's a lady who died of cancer, and her brother didn't pay her property tax. It was $300. And it was auctioned right in this room for $100,000. And now, when the estate came, because the niece lived at the house now in Lakeshore, they can't own Maddie's house because they can't come up with $100,000. The spirit of the tax was to prevent that from happening, because what we see is that people can't even pass on wealth to their generations because they lost things like tax. They lost their house. So that's just one small way to protect those people. And those people who don't need the tax, please don't apply for it. And I think that's all I have. for tonight. And Ms. Melissa, do you know what 2 streets are gonna be paid? Well, so Fredericksburg Drive is on the June's list. I just wanted to confirm it publicly, so. I understand. I understand. I just know that the vendors had a meeting with Public Works, and I just thought that would make it. The vendors who are gonna pave, they said. Okay. The last thing I want to say is I got a call from a resident who lives on Winthrop. She was supposed to be here tonight to do a public comment, so I hope she's watching. So Ms. Warriors calls to say that her creek needs to be serviced and that it's considered on private property. The concern is that Chuck Phillips and I restored the creeks on Green Springs. It was approximately $500,000. The question is, how is Green Spring Creek not a private creek versus Winthrop when they're contiguous, they connect? So what we're asking is that if we could please clarify what creeks the city should maintain and what creeks we shouldn't, because this is something that I get called with often, the creeks.
Property there. Those are 2 separate things. So I have spoken to legal about this. We do not work on private property. So the only thing that the city is responsible for is where we have actual structures and anything within the right of way. If on your property plaque,
well, I
the
know
creek goes through it, that is private property. We have no right to go on their property and it's just a liability issue. We don't work on private property.
I actually agree. I wouldn't want to do something but at the same time, you are required, this city is required to provide a GIS of the creeks that our city maintain and the streets that aren't. What I know that Ada Caston has that data, and we would like to know what streets are maintained by the city and what creeks aren't. And in the case of
Okay, wait, hold on. Hold on, Ms.
Zachariah, I think this is a conversation that probably needs a little bit more in-depth discussion
as opposed to the volleying back and forth, and probably needs to involve the city manager as well. And so I want to make sure that we're not having a conversation where somebody's not prepared to have that discussion.
But she made a statement she made a definitive statement. She should have said, Councilman Gay, let us get together, but she's making definitive statements. And
Councilman
the
Gay,
public
can we get together? Can we all just get together?
Yeah, because I was here when we spent $545,000 in the street, and the creek wasn't flooding. It's hard for people who've been living here 20, 30, 40 years to just make statements and expect them to accept it. That's not how this works. People expect you to be forthright and fair and intelligent about your response. Just saying you can't spend money on this, listen, and close. The soccer field. I had a meeting for 2 hours about this council getting sawed for the soccer field. And I remember saying, look, I'm not here to change your heart. That ain't ready to happen tonight. I'm just here to give you some academics. If it's a city, and then someone stepped up and donated $100,000 facade. So you can't stop what's gonna be happening anyways. You can't stop what's meant to be. All I'm trying to say is, citizens call me, they expect me to be articulate and push back because this is important to them. It means a lot to these people.
Thank you, sir. I also want to express my condolences to the family of Officer Jenkins. His viewing is from 9 to 6 on Wednesday at the Legacy Funeral Home in Jonesboro, and the funeral is at 11 on Thursday at World Changers Church. He served our community for over 20 years, and we are deeply grateful for his service, and I hope that all of you will hold him and his family in your thoughts and your prayers during this extraordinarily difficult time. I also want to send condolences to the family of Audrey Wilson, who was an absolute shining light in our community and has served in a number of leadership positions during her time here in College Park, and we are better for it. She also passed away unexpectedly, and Councilman Clay and I had the opportunity to attend her service over the weekend, and it was just so clear how many people held her dear to their hearts, and she will most certainly be missed. I had the opportunity to spend a couple of days last week in LaGrange, Georgia. I want to thank Mayor Thornton for his hospitality in hosting the Georgia Municipal Association Legislative Policy Council and the Board of Directors as we were working to shape GMA's policy for the upcoming legislative session, because although the legislative session just ended, you got to get ready for the next one in 2023. And so we had great discussions around some pressing issues, not only for our community, but for communities around the state, including legislation around build-to-rent subdivisions and mental health support for members of our community, public safety. The list goes on and on. But it's really important for us to be at the forefront of those conversations to make sure that our association that represents all 537 cities in this great state is advocating on behalf of the people that call cities home. And I'm sure that everyone here is looking forward to the GMA conference in Savannah next month, where we will get the opportunity to connect and learn more from all the member cities. I wanted to thank, Councilman Allen covered some of it. Also want to thank the Historic College Park Neighborhood Association for a great porch party and the Latipos for that this weekend. It was wonderful to connect with people, especially coming out of the pandemic, just to have the opportunity to see everyone on a great night. And it was hopefully the first of several of those as we move forward throughout the summer. Got my sticker on. Make sure you get out and vote. My husband and I went out and did it today. Very, very smooth at the College Park Library. You can vote early through the end of this week, through Friday, and Election Day is next Tuesday. So please make sure that your voice is heard in this election. There are a number of important things, and you've heard about some of them tonight. I want to thank our staff. Yes. I want to thank our city manager. We had a long agenda tonight. Lots of really important things to discuss. And I want to thank the work that went into that from soup to nuts, because this doesn't happen by accident. And we appreciate your level of professionalism and the detail that you give to everything that we have to consider as we move forward through this agenda. And to that end, I want to say that you deserve from us to not put you on the spot. Yeah. And I think that part of that is making sure that we're prepared for the questions that we have for you. And we owe you that. And I think that our residents absolutely 100% deserve answers. Not all of them on the spot, though. And I want to make sure that as we embody our core values, that we really do embrace the respect of everyone. Because I know that there are people in this audience who didn't tuck their children in to sleep tonight because they're sitting here. And they didn't get to have dinner with their families. And they will be back in less than 12 hours to consider our residents day in and day out. And we know this is not an 8 to 5 job. There are questions that come up all the time, over weekends, holidays. And as much as we can make this a great place to work, we've got to consider quality of life issues and be respectful to the fact that every minute that you are here, there's someone who's missing you. And we've got to be able to balance that as well. And so I think that as we move forward in what our expectation should be, we need to take into account how we can work to serve everyone, not just the people who pay our paychecks, but everyone in an equitable manner that makes sense for how we can do business and be respectful of everyone's time. I think it is perfectly reasonable for us to ask questions of our city manager and have her follow up on those questions. And if we need a public response, then do so at the next meeting. If we need a response when her team gathers on Wednesday morning and getting that information, I think that makes sense as well. But being here and talking about how much we pay people and we should expect for them to do everything, and we should just say, hey, we say jump, you say how high. That is not going to get us the best quality people. We want to make this a place of choice. We're not going to win salary wars. We're a small city in relation to everything else that's going on. But we can make people want to stay here because they love working here. And part of that is letting them lead as professionals and having as much control over their time as we can afford them. We've got email. We can ask questions via email. And we should utilize the channels that we have for communication to make sure that we are effectively communicating with our city manager as our charter dictates. That's how communication should occur, because she runs the day-to-day operations of our city and does it very well. I think you're on day 70, what, 8? I don't know. Who's counting now? But I think it's really important that we let our city manager do her job and let her lead her team and support her in doing that. And I'm excited to see where we go. I'm excited for our group of professionals to soar and to uplift people. One of the good things that came out of the GMA meeting last week, I was talking with the executive director, and he was talking about how people get so concerned about sending people to training. He's saying, well, what if we train people, and what if they leave? And he said, well, what if you don't train them and they stay? We want to be a place where we grow talent and let people thrive. We shouldn't get in the way of that. That's all I have. I believe we have some executive session.
Mayor, I had one quick item. As you all know, 2 years ago, we had the decennial census count. This year, any cities that wanted to make any changes in their maps have the opportunity. Since I got back, there was one change I wanted to look at concerning Ward 2 and Councilman Gay's ward. It would be a kind of an even swap in population. And city manager, what I want to do, if the body's okay with it, is take a look at it. We would go down to the reapportionment office and take a look at the computer and look at some reconfigurations and bring back a couple of maps for this body to look at, yay or nay, if they're okay with the changes. Nothing major, but a slight change I wanted us to look at in terms of 2 and 4. So if there was no objection to that, I want to make sure we do that while we within this window here. So that's all I had.
All right, so we have a couple of actions out of executive session. Is there a motion to approve cybersecurity issue A for the amount of $37,147.44?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second? Councilman Carn is the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Cybersecurity issue B for $12,367.92. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilman Clay.
Second.
Councilman Allen, I believe you have the second on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous as well. Is there a motion to approve the executive session minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman
Second.
Clay. And Councilman Carn has seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. I believe that concludes our business for the evening, and at 10:50, we are adjourned.